lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Jeremy Lee in the building and every guest that you ever needed. Sports cards after hours keep the hobby heated. Updates, hobby talk like you never seen it. Sports cards live and none could ever beat it. Sports cards is a lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Welcome to another episode of Sports Cards Live with your host, Jeremy Lee.
All right, guys, what is up? Welcome to episode number 286 of Sports Cards Live. It is Saturday night, October the 18th, 2025. My name is Jeremy Lee. A few quick announcements before we dive in. Fanatics Collect weekly auction-ending watch party is back tomorrow night. If you are thinking of adding a grail to your collection, check out Fund Your Cards, the hobby's leading consolidator. They will help you finance your high-end purchases using your own cards. Visit fundyourcards.com. Explore their proprietary client platform. And collectors across Canada trust Mint Inc. to deliver the ultimate hobby experience, from live whatnot streams and auctions to grading, breaks, and a full retail store just north of Toronto. They do it all, and they're buying bulk collections 7 days a week. Shop online anytime at mintinc.ca with worldwide shipping. Mint Inc., where collecting comes to life. If you're looking to sell your vintage collection, check out Leighton Sheldon and Just Collect. He is offering competitive and transparent valuation and payment process and would love to speak with you. Email Leighton at justcollect.com. GP Sports is your go-to for hockey card breaks every Wednesday and Friday right here on YouTube. Visit gpsportscards.com for breaks and product drops. And for sharp real-time information, sports data, check out Rolling Insights. Their data feeds power major platforms and give fantasy players and businesses a real edge. No more spreadsheets. Visit rolling-insights.com. And guys, Chronosio now offers flexible pricing, so you only pay what you need. Try the new pricing slider or save with their annual plan. Pay for 12 months, get 10. Pay for 10 months, get 12. Start managing your collection smarter at home.chronosio.com. If you'd like to sell some cards on eBay but would like to skip the hassle, message me on Instagram or email me, jeremy@slabsharks.com, and I will help you consign your cards with Slab Sharks. Card Ladder is a sponsor of the show. We have a Card Ladder affiliate down below. Check out Card Ladder to do all your comping and other things as well. Card Ladder is awesome. Don't forget, the show is also available on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcast. Follow for free. And if you're enjoying the content, please leave a rating or review. It really does help. And a huge thanks to all of you for your continued loyalty, viewership, listenership. If you haven't yet already, please take a moment and subscribe to the YouTube channel and podcast. And as always, your comments and your questions are in play tonight. Let's bring out Mr. Joe Poirot from Santa Cruz. We are back. What is up, Joe?
What is going on, Jay Lee? All good. Happy Saturday night to you.
Thank you very much, and a happy Saturday night to you as well. It was I had a pretty good day today, Joe. I set up at the local Calgary card show. It's a one-day show put on by Darren, who owns one of the LCSs in town, and he's been doing the show for a while. So I got to set up at a card show today, bought some cards, sold some cards, took in some Slab Sharks consignments, had a pretty fun day actually at the show. So that was cool. Had a good time. How about you? What's been going on with you, buddy?
Oh, not much. School's in full swing, and went down and saw my dad last weekend, so I missed the show. And today I got in the water for the first time in a couple weeks, so that was quite lovely, just to get some paddling and a few waves in. And of course, cards, and content. Listening to a lot of content, and doing some selling and building up my war chest. Nothing big. I do got one or two surprises to show, maybe in an episode or two down the road. Even something you don't know about. So I'm gonna hold my cards close for now. But all is well in the world of Joe, and looking forward to tonight.
Building up the war chest, you said. So I know that you were looking to make a splash and pick up a card, but it sounds to me like if you're building up the war chest, does that mean that you're going to be able to acquire a bigger, more expensive card than you maybe originally thought? Or are you now thinking, well, maybe I'll pick up 2 cards or 3 cards? Any idea what you plan to do?
I'm hoping for one big one, and I went through one premier auction and a couple other weeklies. I mean, it's been gradually snowballing. So the goal is one Hallmark card, and more and more I'm trending towards something in the vintage genre.
All right. Very, very nice. Hey, let me quickly show you what I picked up at the card show today.
Please do.
Not just you. I'm going to show you and everybody else. So first of all, this Upper Deck makes these outburst cards, and they have the outburst gold, which is the 1 of 1. And look at how awesome these things are.
Ooh, yeah.
Anthony Stolars. He is the starting goalie for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Just signed a 4-year deal. And this is the 1 of 1.
1 of 1. Okay, I was going to say, is that the 10, or is that like a gold vinyl version of Upper Deck? Okay.
Yeah, it's like the Upper Deck Superfractor. You could call it something like that. So, although the Superfractor, they have the Golden Treasures in their more chromium product called OPG Platinum. This is from Flagship. So maybe it is more like a gold vinyl, even though it's a completely, unique design that we don't really see anywhere else.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that's pretty cool. The Toronto Expo is coming up in a couple weeks. And if anyone out there, if you're coming to the Toronto Expo, come see me. New booth location, 1707, I believe, is the new booth location for myself and Sam Genova. Will be set up there, and cannot wait for that. And then Thursday night, GP Sports, Graham Patterson and myself will be co-hosting the social event, the networking event at Arizona's Thursday night after the Expo ends. So everybody is welcome to join us there for that. And Upper Deck is sponsoring the appetizers again. And Grant tells me we're going to have a whole bunch of giveaways and stuff like that. So it should be a lot of fun Thursday night after Expo. If you guys are there, come on down. And Joe, the other card I picked up today, and this one probably won't make it to Toronto with me, is a dual patch auto from the Cup of Mario Lemieux and Steve, pair of players from the 80s and 90s. And this is out of 35, but it's a max color card. You've got 3 color max on the Penguins patch and 2 on Detroit's piece right there. That up from my buddy Ray at the show. And this one walked up to the booth, actually. House Collectibles on Instagram sold me that. So thanks to them, and thanks to everybody who, if you're watching and you came to the Calgary show today and you submitted some cards to Slab Sharks through me, bought cards out of my so. All right, well, let's go to the chat, Joe. Let's go to the chat. We got lots of people present already.
Some familiar faces in the chat.
All the familiar faces. Strong Cards 88. Can't wait. Laura, good evening to you as always. Walter, good evening. Jacob Dahl, the professor. Hello. V, live from Calgary. It's Saturday Night Sports Cards Live. That's right. Skeppy is here. Good evening, Skeppy. Situational Adventures. Nice to see you. Lantern Cards. Turner, welcome to the show. Maybe a little bit of lag here. I apologize. Let's fight through it, guys. Let's fight through it. What is up, Michael Stone? Good to see you. Stukes is here. The Cardboard Corner is here. Jeff McMahon. C. Eddie B. Wife is out for the night. Finally able to join live. Good to have you. Good to have you, Neil. Mookie Chilson. He's worried I'm going to be upcharged for this live stream. No upcharges here on Sports Cards Live, guys. Good to see you, Mookie. Orlando, hello. Robert Scott, good to see you. Bob Boozle, hotel upcharged me for increasing value of my vacation. Larry Gitlin had a great show at Chantilly, sadly for the last time at the Dulles Expo Center as it was sold to IKEA. Okay, well, they'll find a new location. Double D Dylan is here. Dylan will be joining us, everybody, in about 20 minutes. Skeppy is calling out the Classic Sports Cards Live t-shirt. I am wearing that tonight. Good to know, Skeppy. Gordon Morrison, good evening. Gordon, Hobby Champs, I just hope someone I like doesn't start simping for these predatory upcharges. I don't have the patience for this crap anymore, says Hobby Champs. Yankees fan, good evening to you. We've got 90s auctions. Josh will be joining us later. What do you mean accept? What do you mean? Who doesn't love Iserman? Come on, Josh. Midlife Greg, what's going on, buddy? Good to see you as always. Mike Petty, upcharges are tough to swallow, he says. Welcome to the show. True North, HB, good to see you. Piccolina the cat. Mike Petty, brought my car in for service and they upcharged me due to the value of the car. I mean, on a car wash, I mean, they're going to make your car look cleaner. Maybe they upcharge those. I don't know. DT, shout out from a fellow accountant. What's going on? Yeah, man, cards. Mo, got to see Mo at the show today. Says Jeremy's got a lot of new exciting inventory. It was fun. People are having fun. Pre-war dreams says the PSA upcharge virus gets caught in the throat a little. Mike Petty, waitress says hi to me tonight at dinner, then upcharge me for the dessert menu. Okay, I can't read all these upcharge jokes tonight, guys, but I'll do as many as I can. Bob Boozle wants more value. And E105, what happened to Milwaukee? Robert, good evening. All right. So, Joe, PSA upcharges. Now, listen, we've talked about this before. This is not new news, but I guess Jeff Wilson put out a tweet or a post on Instagram recently, and I know a lot of this is going to be repetitive for a lot of you guys, but, you know, just to set the context, he basically said, you know, I don't know what you guys are all pissed off about, but PSA upcharged me $5,000 and my card went up in value $50,000. So I don't mind paying them the commission on increasing the value of my card. I just think back to the days when the cards had value themselves. Now, like, what are we buying, guys? Are we buying cards? Or are we buying plastic holders? What? And not we, because I don't think I'm doing that anymore. I used to. I used to drink the Kool-Aid, just like many people. Many of you probably still do. I hope you don't, but many of you do. And what are we buying, Joe? Are we buying cards or are we buying plastic holders? Because if we are, like, I've got this right here. I got this right here, guys. I'd like to present to you a 75-point top loader. I'm going to cough on it, maybe lick it, and I don't know, maybe I'll put this on eBay for $450, because if you put your card in here, you've now got a very expensive piece of plastic, and I'll just sign my name at the top, or maybe I'll sign Joe's name. Doesn't even matter. We are paying for plastic. Now, that's not completely true. What we are paying for is the opinion of PSA. That's what, and they are charging for their opinion, which adds value to the cards. It only adds value to the cards because the hobby says so, not because they say so. It's not because PSA says so. It's because the hobby community pays up for that slab, and the hobby community has somewhat done it to themselves. It's PSA. PSA is only, it's like Nat said on that video that Neo posted recently. It's like Nat Turner said, most companies either charge for the value that they assign, the value that they give products, or they just sell their products or charge for the product itself. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but they are taking a piece of the value that their holder and their opinion gives the cards. It's the accretive value to the card. But it's only because you guys, and I'm not talking to all of you, but you know what? It's only because you guys pay. You guys pay. A PSA 10 is worth way more than a PSA 9, which is worth way more than a raw card, which is worth more than PSA 8, et cetera, et cetera. So we've given them that power, and we can't. The only way to stop it is to take that power back by not assigning secondary market value to PSA. But that's a circular thing that we all go through. That is the problem. That is the true core of the issue, is that we pay it. The hobby pays it. So they charge it because we let them. Okay. But all that said, it's a payment for their opinion and for the insurance, so that they can pay out all the payouts they have to pay for when they made mistakes in the past. Whether it was pre-Nat Turner owning the company or post-Nat Turner, they still have that guarantee. So, Joe, first thoughts based on everything I just said. What do you think?
Yeah, you make a lot of sense. And, the other thing is just I become less and less interested in the number on the slab and more interested in just the fact that it's authenticated. Is it a 2 with great eye appeal for a pre-war card? Hell, that might look like a 7 in some cases if you have something subtle going on, with your Babe Ruth. I mean, you can have grades all over the place and still have exceptional cards. So, I think about the authentication and frankly, as someone who lives near the ocean and has a lot of humidity and a lot of, we're dealing with mold here through the winter, and the house, it's like, I just like the thing slabbed up. I know you can throw it in a one touch, but I feel a little better when it's sealed. Now, getting to Jeff Wilson, my take on that was just, people are going to have a reaction to Jeff Wilson posting anything, much less an upcharge that would indicate that he's got a card that's worth, upwards of six figures, right? So, like, who wouldn't have a response to that? Because how many of us are getting cards graded that are in the six-figure range? Not me. Occasionally, I know you've had one or two, but it's, when Wilson does it, it's kind of flaunting his wealth in a way. And I could see people just having responses to that, on the principle. But there's nothing new here as far as I can tell. And there's nothing super, I think just the hobby is a little extra sensitive to it, partially because PSA is more and more becoming a monopoly. So there's fewer choices. So when walls start to close and we feel like we only have one option, and we see someone kind of putting up a poster board for the upcharge, and maybe that someone is a little controversial, it doesn't surprise me that people are going to have strong reactions. Personally, for me, it's a bit of a nothing burger.
Yeah. It is for me too, on a personal collecting level, because I pay up for lower grade cards because I see more value there. So I'm just saving money left, right, and center, not spending it on the slab or the opinion. And listen, if I respected the opinion more than I do, I'd maybe sing a different tune. But I just don't respect the PSA opinion anymore. I used to. I just don't. So I respect my ability to look at a card more than I respect anyone else's. I'm not outsourcing my judgment on the condition of a card anymore. So because of that, I don't really care if it's a PSA 10 or a 9, because I know that PSA 10s could have been PSA 9s before, and we just know that, you're going to get a different grade many times. If you send them 100 cards and you get one grade, you send them back 100 times, those 100 cards back again, you may get 50-60% that come back with the same grade. The rest are going to be different. So but that's what you're buying. You're buying the opinion of the grader who's assigned to your card on that day. You're not even buying the PSA opinion. You're buying the opinion of the PSA grader, who you don't even know what their experience is, how many cards they've graded, how long they spent grading the card. We just don't know. So that's why I don't have respect for the opinion anymore. I have respect for the brand. That's a different thing. I have respect for the brand because they've done such a good job of building it up. But not just them. The hobby has done such a good job also of building up the PSA brand for PSA. The hobby has done that for them. And now the hobby complains about so many things. Yet I have to think a lot of the people that are complaining are the same people that are assigning these values to PSA graded cards. So now the upcharge problem that people have is that it only, it's like Beckett put out a great marketing piece the other day. They said, whether your card is worth $50 or $50,000, it takes the same amount of work to grade that card, and their fee is the same. It was a great sort of jab at PSA's staggered pricing structure. And so the problem that people have is that it takes the same amount of time. And the other problem is that people see it could be an opportunity for a conflict of interest to incentivize PSA to grade higher so they can charge more, which goes exactly against what I'm noticing a lot of, which is the grades are two grades lower than they've ever been. 9s are now 7s, 10s are now 8s. Like that's what I'm seeing when I look at cards. I'm like, wow, this looks like this was a 6 in the past. I've got 6s that look like this. So their grading standards are not consistent. They do ebb and flow with the times. Maybe it's a lever they can pull on for demand and to bring in more business. I don't know. I'm not inside there, but that's what it looks like. So it's this potential conflict of interest to give out better grades, even though they seem to be giving out more difficult grades. So I haven't been able to reconcile that completely yet in my own head. But here's my biggest problem with upcharges. And Dan the Card Man put out a video earlier today, and he said, a lot of people, all the talking heads are missing the big point. He said the big point to Dan the Card Man, which is not my big point. I have a different big point. But the big point to Dan the Card Man is that you're paying for this insurance, the upcharges insurance. You're paying for the insurance, but you're not protected as the submitter. So the person who submits the card is paying the insurance for somebody else. And the reason PSA doesn't give a guarantee to their submitters is because then all they're doing is enabling people to try and get one past them. Oh, I can just print up a bunch of fake Jordan 86 Fleers and try to get them to grade 1 of 10. And then, hey, look, guys, you misgraded it. Where's my $300,000 or whatever it is? So I understand that. Dan said he's got a suggestion to fix that or for them to implement that would maybe balance that out. I didn't catch what it was, but that's not my. So I understand Dan's issue. I have another big issue. I've said it before.
What's that?
If I'm going to send in a card to get graded that is worth 10 grand today, modern player, and they're going to charge me based on a $10,000 value. But what if I don't sell that card? Like, it seems like PSA is only for people who are selling their cards. Like, why would you as a collector grade a valuable card with them and pay their fees in the event that card could go down in value? Now, as I'm saying this, I'm thinking, well, the card could also go up in value. Cards can also go up in value. So you might pay more later to have it graded. We don't know. I mean, they do move their grading prices up and down as, to control the inflow of submissions. So, but the problem is if I pay 10,000, if I submit a card that's worth 10 grand, and I think it's going to be, whatever, I don't know what their prices are, but I think it's going to cost me $25 to grade it. And then I get an upcharge email saying, well, this card is no longer worth $500. It's now worth $10,000, we believe. So now we're going to charge you whatever that $500 to grade the card. Okay, fine. Here's $500 to get my card back, because otherwise they're going to send it back to me raw. So thank you thank you. There's your $500. Now, what happens if that guy gets hurt or does something stupid, pulls a gun like Ja Morant does, and now all of a sudden the card's worth $2,000? I'm penalized by not selling my card as soon as I received it back from PSA because I paid way too much to have the card graded. So that's my biggest problem with the upcharges. It's not so much that they exist, because I do understand why they exist, because we're a bunch of fools. That's why they exist. We are a bunch of fools. But they do not compensate you or refund you if your card goes down in value. Meaning, you better sell it as soon as you get it. You better sell it as soon as you get it back, especially if it's a modern player. So, what do you think of all that, Joe? Because it's frustrating.
Well, you did sort of loosen in my mind I think a salient point, which is that the nature of the upcharge does seem to assume a sale, a subsequent sale, in so much as you're investing more than just what it would be to get your card graded if it wasn't worth that much. And so it seems to almost prompt or assume that this is a commercial venture, right? Like you're entering a commercial venture. And consumer confidence is absolutely stoked when it's in that red slab. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I've had my own. I don't use PSA myself. I buy PSA cards on the secondary market. There was one time I transitioned a T206 Cobb bat on shoulder from an old SCD case. It was a 4. And it happily got into a PSA 3.5, and I was upcharged, and I was very happy that an SCD4 went. I was happy it was authentic, much less a 3.5. So, for me, I get it. It's maybe just a little symbolic of where we are in the hobby, where there's so much focus on the price of the card or what you're into it for, and prompting you to move forward in some sort of transaction. But at the same time, just like you said, there's a little bit of a paradox. And I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot here, Jay Lee, but
but I'm gonna.
So like you mentioned the paradox, right? The paradox of people saying there's a conflict of interest because if they give it a good grade, then there's going to be an upcharge. By the same token, we hear a lot about population control. And might I ask you, do you think population control is a thing?
Absolutely, I do. Yeah, but not on every card, but I absolutely do. I think that certain populations are protected, and I think that they're looking for ways not to give that next Gretzky rookie a PSA 10 or whatever low pop, high grade vintage, low pop PSA 10, even 9s for whatever cards, might be the elusive grade. I absolutely do think that there is a level of that. Maybe it's not ongoing, maybe it's not constant in the office there, but I'm convinced. Now, I could be wrong. We could all be wrong. If whoever with me believes that there is an element of population control happening, we could be wrong. I hope we are. But it's just like if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, like it seems too obvious.
Right. So I mean, to me though, that kind of contradiction or paradox starts to sort of unravel a larger concern. I mean, there's other concerns, again, just the commercial nature of all this, but like, thinking about the conflict of interest one, it seems as though, how many Ricky Henderson rookie cards, PSA 10s have been slabbed recently. And it's just, they could be making a lot of money if they threw, cards that were probably right on that border into 10s, but they're not doing that, are they? So,
yeah.
I guess that's sort of where I land on all this is, and maybe nothing burger is a little overstated, but to me it's not. I'm just still looking at the cards inside the slab and not so much the flip and not so much the slab.
Yeah, no, well said. And I think this is a real the paradox is real here. And but so then I started thinking, well, in my head as you're talking, I'm thinking to myself, okay, so maybe a card that has maybe there's like a threshold that they look at. Like if the top grade of the cards, which 8, 9, 10, whatever based on era, if the top grade is a 10 and there's 300 and whatever let's say they have a threshold. So if it's a modern card and there's already 100 PSA 10s, maybe they're not pop controlling it as much. If it's a vintage card and it's a pop 2 and it's a gem rate of 0.000, it's like 2 out of 10,000, like a Gretzky rookie, there I can see there definitely being some population control. And I mean, I've just talked to people who have tried to get those elusive 10s with cards that I've seen with my own 2 eyes that are nicer than both 10s out there. But then PSA should say, well, those 10s are not really 10s anymore. Those 10s don't qualify as 10s anymore. But then why aren't you recalling them or decertifying them? So, but at the same time, we have to remember PSA is a company that operates for profit. That is their only reason for existing, is to earn a profit and shareholder value. They care about the shareholders. The number one most important stakeholder in PSA is the shareholder. That goes for every corporation out there that is not a not-for-profit. That's the number one stakeholder, is the shareholder. So the fact that they can charge money and we pay it and they still are at capacity and need to expand, why wouldn't they charge the money? Why wouldn't they charge the money, since we the hobby so willingly pass it over to them hand over fist? Like, we're fools. That's what I'm saying. And especially when we know that the consistency just isn't there. The experience just isn't there. Sure, it's there at the top levels. And I don't know the senior graders there. I've heard the one guy, his name is now escaping me, but his name is very unique and easy to remember once it pops back in your head. But there are probably some very really wonderful, skilled, consistent graders there. Sure. But I just don't believe that trickles all the way down to the the new hires and the less experienced graders. So yeah, it's a tough situation, but it's not that tough really. It's just people complain about it.
Yeah. And I'll just underscore the other point is I think this also just speaks to the fact that we are, kind of in a rock and a hard place when it comes to our options with grading at this point. And I think we're hearing some people sort of say, well, bump it, I'm going to not grade, like, but are you really going to do that? I mean, there's a lot of good reasons to grade for, if you were to pass unexpectedly, your family having, a little more security in terms of like what they actually have, being able to, be more liquid in your consolidation of funds from cardboard. So I don't know. I think it provides us with a service. People can choose to use the service if they want. But with some of the diminishment of SGC, and I'm cross-referencing some of my SGC slabs and thinking, do I want to convert these? Do I, just want to leave them in there? I mean, and I keep going back to, at least at this point, I'm just paying attention to the card in the slab.
Yeah. Well, so listen, so many comments, and you guys, thank you for all the engagement. I see Dan, congratulations, Dan, daughter getting engaged. Very nice, Dan. Congratulations. Enjoy your dinner. Turner says, at the end of the day, if you don't like PSA or don't believe in the value they bring, then vote with your money, go another route, or just don't grade. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's hard. It's hard not to just, that's the way. So it's like, if you're going to complain about it, walk the walk. If you're going to talk the talk, walk the walk, right? That's really what it comes down to. And until the hobby decides that PSA's opinion is not worth what they think it's worth right now, and the only reason they think it's worth what it is right now is because we've led them to believe that. We have told them that it's worth that much because of the way those cards have sold, which is mind-boggling considering the level of inconsistency in the grading anyway. But it's an opinion, so it doesn't need to be consistent, right? Because it's an opinion. So, okay. Thanks, guys, for all the comments. I'm going to have to go back and look at a lot of them because I think there's some really good ones there. And, yeah. But we got Dylan Double D in the back room right now, guys. We're going to bring on another surfer. I'm going to be outnumbered here. And we're going to have two surfers and an accountant here on the on the screen. So what do you think, Joe? You ready to bring Dylan on? Dylan, you ready to go? Give me a thumbs up, buddy. All right. Are you ready, Joe? Because
let's paddle in. Let's paddle into the wave. Don't look back.
Let's hear what he has to say. And guys, before I bring him on, I want to just mention that there's so many comments there that I wish I could have read, but this is a very focused conversation, obviously. So I might ask you to, repost some of them a little bit later, but let's bring on Dylan. We'll get his take on all this, and then we're going to move on to some topics that Dylan is bringing. Okay, Dylan, welcome to the show, buddy. Well, hold on. I keep doing something happened to me. What's up, Dylan? How are you, buddy?
Hey, Jeremy. Joe, dude, thanks for having me. Super stoked. I mean, to have another surfer who collects always blows my mind. And me and Joe, we text all the time now. So, yeah, I really appreciate the invite, Jeremy. I've watched your show for a long time. I actually saw you at the national. I don't know. I think it was my first national. And you were walking through the hall. And I almost stopped you. But, I was just brand new to YouTube. And like, I didn't want to hey, I watch, hey, I know who you are, Jeremy, but yeah. I saw you in the flesh one time. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well,
thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Well, yeah, man, it's great to have you. I know you and Joe are buds. And just one thing on that, please say hi to me. I like nothing more than to meet people in the hobby with like-minded. And you and I had a phone conversation the other day, Dylan, where we like a lot of the same things. Yeah. So that was pretty fun. I had a good time chatting with you and getting to know you a little bit better. And thanks to Joe for, I feel like I know you, Dylan, as well, but thanks to Joe for facilitating that as well. It's good to have you on. And so let's just get into it. You were back there. You heard that last bit. Where do you fall in terms of this recent PSA upcharge talk? And how do you respond to everything that Joe and I were saying?
I'll hit them all up real quick. All right. First, Jeff Wilson, I actually like Jeff. I'm like one of the guys in my our vintage world that I like the guy. I have fun watching his videos. I don't, to me, he's not like Jeremy. I've been in the hobby since I was a kid. I never left. Since I was, I popped out of the womb, I was collecting cards, and I have never left this hobby. So when you have a guy like Jeff who popped in and then popped out, and now he's popped in, and shooting his opinions off, it's entertainment. So when I watch him, it's entertainment. He's having a good time. He obviously loves cards. So to me, he's been out of the news for a little while. Like the last thing he did was talk about how high grades are investment. And then all of our vintage group, we all got our fists up and like, you're wrong. The cards have gone up the most in the last, couple years are centered low grade, high eye appeal cards. And that's proving factual. Not the high grades anymore. There's, so I think he just wanted to push some buttons. I think what he did when he did that thing on Instagram, I saw it and I wanted to punch him through the screen because it was just like, why he was doing it. He was just trying to get back in the conversation and do exactly this, get some excitement around, that's what he does. I think it was just a dumb thing to say. It was arrogant. It was all about money. And I thought it was dumb, but I also, I think he knew that. So it really didn't bother me so much. It's like, all right, he wants to get back in the news. Let the guy back in. As far as, what you touched on, Jeremy, to me, that hit the spot the most is that we always blame like PSA for the value of the cards. They have nothing to do with the value of the cards on the market. We are in charge of making these high grades, these numbers worth the most. It's not on them. It's on us as consumers. So us realizing what is the true rarity in cards, in particular for me, Topps cards, it's centering, so the eye appeal, having a perfect centered card, the perfect eye appeal to me is much more important than a high grade. So I love that you just said, like, I did the same thing that you did. A lot of us did. I collected PSA 7s and 8s for 25 years, even buying them sight unseen on the pit way back then, it was like, that was all. We wanted sharp corners and the grade meant something, but the smarter the hobby is getting, the more things are changing. And we're seeing it happen faster than I thought. So that kind of kills that bird. And then the next bird that we need to kill is, it's I forgot where I was going with that. But what else did we talk about? I lost track.
Well, the upcharge, so we're talking about you've raised Jeff Wilson as part of this discussion because he triggered the reemergence of this discussion at this time, or at least the level of narrative around it. And then we talked about the values of cards, and that is on the hobby, not on PSA. And I think maybe where you're going lastly was the upcharge itself and the logic behind the upcharges and whether or not it is proper.
Okay, well, I was actually thinking in my head pop control, and then I got train of thought lost. The pop control hit my button too. I don't believe they do pop control. I think Hobby Champs had a good comment earlier. I think it's just they're just scrutinizing these ones more. Like they know, the Gretzky rookie is. They don't want to give out ugly 10s anymore. I think they just don't want to give out ugly cards, high grades anymore, where they did in the past. They're trying to fix that situation. I think that's how I look at it. I don't know if it's true or if it's not. The whole paying the upcharge thing, like I don't run their business. I don't know how it works. Doesn't bother me one bit. To me, it's dumb. I feel like they could make it just put it in the price of grading. You grade a card, this is what it costs. But I'm not here to discuss that. And like I don't know. I really don't have an opinion. It doesn't affect me. I don't send cards off for grading. I don't know, I've never been upcharged for a card because I barely sent any cards to PSA to get graded. So
yeah, I was upcharged once, I believe, actually. And I just took the pill. Like, whatever. It is what it is. It wasn't a big upcharge. I think, from maybe $500 to $2,000 in value, something like that. So I don't know what the fee even went from 50 to 150, something like that. Wasn't the end of the world. I just like, well, I have no choice, so I have to pay it. Don't want them to not send me back the graded card. Your thoughts on, you don't think that there's pop control. I hope all I can say to that, Dylan, I hope you're right. I just hope you're right, because I think that there's the perception out there, and I have that perception in for various reasons, but I hope that I'm misperceiving something. That would be, if I could know 100% certain that I'm misperceiving that, I'd be thrilled about that. So, Joe, any follow-up to Dylan's entry to the show and comments?
Aloha, Dylan. Good to see you, man. Yeah. So more and more, I look at the era of the grading. So in other words, the cert number and where it falls in terms of recency, because I think that becomes as important as the number on the card. Like we've already acknowledged, it seems to be, anywhere from 1 to 2 grades lower in the last 2 to 4 years. I don't know, maybe 1 to 3 years. So when I'm shopping and I'm looking at, vintage cards, not only am I assessing eye appeal, and not only am I kind of, taking into account that, for better or for worse, PSA may get a premium, I'm also looking at the vantage point of the grade from what was the date it was graded. And that's, I think, just an important component. I mean, here we are, we don't have a whole lot of options at this point. We've got PSA, we've got SGC, we've got Beckett. I guess we've got, CCG, CGS. I don't even, I like their slabs. They're beautiful slabs, but it is what it is. If you're wanting that confidence, you're getting things shipped to you, you're not at a show, you can't eye it up yourself. You got to take a few leaps of faith, and that's what it is. It's just an opinion, but it's an opinion that happened in a particular moment. And Jeremy, I'll just go back to what you said. I think a lot of cards and slabs that are 9s and 10s, if they could, they would go back and say, nope, not so much. That's an 8. and we would, and so if we take that into account, it's very, when people talk about a perfect card, there is no perfect card in terms of condition. I mean, cards have so many ways to have challenges, from centering to blemishes to microscopic, non-observable to the human eye issues. And so I don't know. I think everything is contextual, and everything should be taken with a grain of salt.
Yeah, maybe they need to charge these fees just to cover the legacy population out there that contains trimmed and counterfeit cards. I mean, there's no shortage of that. I think Nat said they're spending like millions of dollars a month buying back cards that were misgraded before. And maybe when they bought the company in 2020 or 2021, back when it was, they couldn't have known what was out there. So maybe they overpaid for the business, and now they're reclaiming those funds through upcharges and really taking a piece of the card. Now, when you go for an opinion on anything, like, you as an accountant, I can speak to a company gets audited financial statements. That comes from an external third party auditor who has no financial interest in that company except for the fees that they charge, which are pretty much standard across the industry. There's a really fine line here about whether or not PSA has a financial interest in the cards that they are grading, because it seems like they do. It seems like they do have a financial interest in those cards. And I found a quote from Joe Orlando from like 2019, I think it was, and I'm not going to quote it verbatim here, but he basically, when he was the president of PSA, he made the comment and said something like, it would look really bad if we had a financial interest in the cards that we are grading. Well, I guess it seems like under Nat's leadership and the executives there, that they're okay with having a financial interest in the cards now. They don't have a financial, it's actually, they have the best of both worlds. They only have a financial interest in the cards at the moment they grade it. And then they get to wash their hands of it because if the card goes down in value, they don't get hurt. Now, if they later find out that they can get hurt if they misgraded that card, if that card is misgraded or counterfeit. So I suppose they do have some downside, but that's a maybe. They have a definite financial interest in the upside of the card. So how do you feel about that, Dylan? Does that make you think anything about the way they do it, or you still don't care?
No, it's shady. It's shady. It's all kind of like in the gray area. You know, Dr. Beckett has been talking about that on his podcast a little bit. Like there's no, like, I don't know what his words were exactly. And to quote Dr. Beckett is like, you know, it's like quoting God. So I don't want to get his words wrong or anything. But you know, it is a really gray area, and it's like, to me, he just like Nat Turner having all these giant PSA 10s. To me, that even, like, my brain's like, sounds shady already, just out of the gates. Like, all kinds of different things to me don't make sense that PSA does. But it's not in me. I don't really care. For me, it doesn't affect my collecting mindset. I'm not a guy who gets caught up in that. It just doesn't really bother me. I'm a collector. I like talking about things. Don't get me wrong. I like hearing you guys talk about it and discuss them. But, you know, I'm more like, whatever, you know, they're gonna do what they're gonna do, you know. Yeah. And everyone like you and like all the guys out there, other guys that put, you know, pound the fist and are the police of the hobby, I let them do their policing. I don't do policing. I let the hobby do its thing and I do my thing.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I just want to respond to one thing, then we'll hear from Joe, which is, you know, when you talked about Nat Turner having all those PSA 10s, and I can't verify that. I don't remember his collection completely, but there is one area where there is obviously a potential conflict of interest that I just don't think is the case. I don't see him being somebody who is going to receive favorable grades or accept favorable grades. Maybe one of these graders finds out it's his card and wants to get in good with the boss. They want to give him a better grade. I don't think he's the kind of guy that would accept it. I really don't. So I think he loves making money. He's a capitalist. He has a duty to the shareholders, to his partners. So, I mean, that's where profit first. But for the company, for his personal collection, I don't think he cares what grades he gets. I think he buys the card and then he's like a lot of us who don't care about the grade. He may not even respect the grade as much, just like we don't respect the grade, or at least I don't. He might just say, you know what, I just want it in the PSA holder. And like me, Jeremy Lee, I also like my cards and PSA holders. Call me crazy, I do. I'm just not willing to pay for it. Let someone else pay the insurance for me, and then I'll be the beneficiary of that. With that said, I have to say one thing. I have been buying some modern Sidney Crosby cards on ComC lately, like Skybox Metal Universe cards, like numbered out of less than 100, and sending them direct to PSA for grading on ComC because it's literally 3 clicks. And I'm like, it's ComC credit, so whatever. So I can no longer say I don't grade cards with PSA. I have in the past. I just haven't in many years. But this is kind of like an exception for me. So, Joe, all that said, any thoughts?
Oh, you bring up a good point there at the end. I mean, there's a reduction in friction happening more and more, and everything is getting kind of wrapped into like one-stop shopping. I mean, I was looking at a card recently and I saw, there's the box. I could just, ship it to Santa Ana. It's got to go there for authentication anyway, so why not get it graded? And it's all very interesting. Feels a little 1984-ish, but here we are in 2025. I wanted to ask Dylan real quick. I know we've got a lot to cover with some of the topics, but Dylan, you do your own grading, right? I mean, I know you have slabs. I know you have, your PSAs, your BGSs, whatever. But can you just briefly tell the audience, what do you do when you decide to put something in your own slab, and what does that even amount to?
Yeah, I do. So I use Mag Pros, and you can make your own labels. So I make my own labels at my house. They will make them for you. What I like to do is I grade my own cards. I love numbers. Okay. I love the grading system. I've loved it since I started since they came out in the 90s is when I jumped into buying vintage graded cards. I always collected vintage cards, but they were always like, I was always really scared to buy any big cards. As soon as grading came out in the 90s, I was like full blow, like I'm buying them all. I'm buying all PSA 7s. Well, now I just grade them myself, and I love putting the numbers. I'm honest with myself, and I put all the information on my own slab. So you guys can do this at home. And there's a company that you can print your own, they'll print them for you. And I love putting it way more information, the better. For me, the more information on the flip, if there's pack odds, serial numbers, information for the year that player was in, like the stats for the year, any cool facts, I put them on the slab because they're my own. I don't, if one day I need to sell these and in whenever time and no one's going to buy them in my own slabs, that's fine. I can pop them out and they can be sent to PSA or sell them raw. But as I enjoy them in my collection, I was just talking to John Mangini earlier in a text. I have 1,276 graded cards in my collection currently, and 400 and something are my own personal graded cards. So it's awesome. I don't feel the need to send off my cards for grading anymore, especially the modern stuff, because I love the more information on the modern cards I can get. The pack odds, how many came in the set, all kinds of different information I can add. It clicks in my brain when I look at the card. I see guys on YouTube show cards and they're like, oh, what is this? I can't see it. I'm blind anyways, and they can't read the date. I can see everything on my slab. I know exactly what it is. I think it's really fun, and it's way cheaper. I mean, the modern hobby's learning too. Like, it isn't just vintage guys going after the lower grades and just collecting cards again. The modern guys as well. We went through that whole time where the PSA 10s are worth a fortune in base cards, and they just tanked. All the base cards tanked. A lot of guys don't care anymore about the number on the slabs in modern either. They just want the rarest card in modern they can find. Put it in a one touch is cool, but for me, put it in my own slab with all the info, it just adds that finishing touch. It adds the museum touch, just like you, Jeremy. I love PSA graded cards. They're my favorite slabs, minus right behind my own slabs myself. So long answer for you, Joe, but I get excited talking about that because it's a way to take back the hobby to ourselves. And we can really make it our own. We don't have to give this money to anybody, minus the $2 for the plastic, which we're paying anyways for whatever we put our cards in.
I just wonder, Dylan, have we just launched a new Double D grading company here tonight? I know people know you grade your cards, but I mean, with all this talk, you've been grading longer than most people at PSA have been grading. You might have been great. You might be the most senior grader on the planet right now, and you do it for all your cards. So, are you a good grader? Are you consistent? I want to ask you, how consistent would you be if you were to get a job as a grader and you looked at the same card without knowing it was the same card, with thousands of cards in between, seeing the same card over and over again? How confident are you that you would be consistent and give the same grade every time? How many times out of 10 would you think you would be able to give the same grade to the same card without, again, it being over and over so you recognize it?
Probably 9 times out of 10. And Jeremy, I've been grading cards for over a decade. I used to grade them in my Card Saver ones, and I have labels that I made, Avery labels. So I have binders full of old, like I have a whole wall of just my old school Card Saver ones that I grade, all vintage cards. I just graded them myself. But to also be fair, Jeremy, I changed my opinions through the years. I got stricter as PSA got stricter, because I used PSA as my standard. I read their thing. I know it, I knew it by heart, like every grade, what it deserves, what it's allowed to have. I learned that. And that's how I graded my cards, was off of PSA standards. And since they got stricter, I got stricter. So when I look at my old card saver ones with my grades on there, most of them are off by, a half to a full grade on the downward slope, just like PSA. So I have changed. But when I look at my cards, like when I'm grading now, I would almost guarantee you my grades would match up with, if I sent them into PSA, I would get that grade. At least within a half a point, maybe a point would be a drastic difference.
Joe, do you have any? I got a few things going through my mind right now. Do you have anything?
No, you go, Jaylee. You go. I love it. I love it, D. I love it.
So, Dylan, you said something really interesting there that I think a lot of people might overlook, and I think we have to remind ourselves, which is that you said that you change your grading standards as PSA has changed theirs. I think that's a reasonable thing to do. And the reason why is because, they are the industry standard, because we, the hobby, have anointed them as the industry standard. Because grading is not really like, it's a new science. It's not a science backed in biology. It's a science backed in opinion, only an opinion. And if the hobby decides, or if the leading grading company, clearly PSA, decides that the way they've been grading is no longer the best way or the most accurate or applicable, because really, a gem mint card should be very close, as close to perfect as you can get. I think maybe that's reserved for pristine, but even the leading grading company maxes out a gem mint. So you can have a less than perfect card in a gem mint holder because it's less than pristine. Doesn't mean there are no pristine cards in PSA holders. It just means that they don't have that grade, and it's too late for them to go back. I think what I'm getting at, though, is that, there is no boss. The hobby has no boss, but many people just figure it must be PSA. And we've kind of, like, they didn't really ask for that. Well, maybe they did. They're a business, so they want to get there, but we've given them that title. And so I think that it's interesting that, that there is drift, there is grading standard drift that occurs over months, years, decades. And maybe that's okay, because this is still a hobby that is evolving and maturing over time. We're not in the ninth inning, so things can continue to change. And maybe one of those things that changes are the grading standards. Yes, Dylan.
I don't think it's okay that it's changed. I want to be perfectly clear. I don't think it's okay that PSA changed their standards, especially since they said they didn't. I really don't think. It's funny because we always, like, when you watch PSA reveals or any grading reveals on YouTube, people, like, they get pissed off and like all we've ever wanted was consistent grading. That is so not true. All you want is higher grades on your cards, because if we wanted consistent grading, AI hasn't figured out, or at least Tag hasn't figured out how, or I don't know if they have figured out how, or they just haven't chosen to grade vintage cards yet. I am a huge opponent. I'm a huge guy. Like, give me AI. I think the most important thing in this hobby one day is going to be the consistency.
Oh, we just lost Dylan. Maybe his phone. Maybe he's
right at the mic drop too.
Yeah. Is the consistency. While we wait for him to come back, I find, I was really interested to hear that he does not think it's okay that the standards have changed. And what isn't okay is that it's basically rendered all the previously issued opinions as irrelevant, as moot, as obsolete. Those are no longer they're no longer legitimate. They've is the word what's the word? They've illegitimized, or they've delegitimized that so many of us own. I've got tons of cards in older slabs. Are they no longer legitimate grades? Because they have changed the grading the standards. Either the standards have changed and or the way that they apply those standards has changed. So something's changed. There's just no doubt about it that something has definitely changed. Dylan, give me a thumbs up when you're ready to come back on, and I will and I'll bring you back on. He's still fumbling back there, but he'll be back. So yeah, I mean, what do you think of that, Joe? What do you think of that?
What I think is we're all in the process of having to decode what the era of the slab, the grading company, and what we can see of the card within the slab in relation to the numerical grade. And that in some cases might be that there's an SGC 3 that looks really nice, but might be trimmed. There's all kinds of possibilities, and I think you just have to be an experienced hobbyist to really get your decoder ring out and look through just the obvious and take into context all the minutia, all the details, all your own knowledge. And one thing I wanted to mention just about what went through my mind when Dylan was talking about his own relationship to grading his cards was just like, in some ways, like, what if, like, it's worth thinking about, like, what if we all had to start our own grading companies? Would we do half grades? Would we do this? Would we, what kind of even flip would we have? I mean, it's kind of an interesting thought experiment. Would we want to be tougher than PSA? Would we want to be, more in line with, the old whatever, gem mint? I don't know. But anyway, fun convos.
Well, I can tell you that when Tag was launching originally, and to your comment about them earlier, Dylan, about the vintage, listen, I'm not involved with them at all day to day. I sit in on investor meetings, which are like a couple times a year. That's it. So but from my perspective, they've just gone the Pokemon route. I think that's where they've been really widely and welcomed into that hobby, where the sports hobby was just very reluctant. So they're going to where they're getting business. So I don't blame them for that at all. Let Tag be a TCG company if that's where they're wanted. But you were about to, as Joe said, when you dropped off, you're about to mic drop. So would you like to pick up from where you left off there?
Yeah, sorry about that, Jeremy. Of course, when I'm on your show, it all goes to hell. Okay. Like, the grading thing, the best thing we could ever do is send a card, and all I ever wanted, all the hobby thinks they want, is that you send a card in and it comes back the exact same grade every single time. I'm a believer in the fact that one day that's going to happen. I don't want some guy giving my card a grade. One up and one down is drastic changes, but to me, the hobby seems to really like that, like, gambling aspect of it, even though they talk crap on it when they get the wrong grade. I just find the hobby so two-sided, because I think one day, Mangini said it before, the best time to grade your cards is right before you sell them, because you never know what is going on in the hobby at that time. In 10 years, when PSA flips the script on us and they have the AI down to a science and no one's touching their cards, I don't want a human to touch my cards ever again unless they're putting it in a scanner and it comes back. I could send the same card in 1,000 times. It gets the same grade. That's when true grades truly matter. Now, however that's built out, I think it's going to happen one day. It's happened with Tag. That's when everyone's going to have to resend all their cards again. It's kind of funny. And let me make one more thing. I know this whole grading thing, I get fired up about it. The reason why PSA cards, I've said this for so long, and I always just get infuriated over this. And it's proven, finally, people are proving this. The reason PSA cards deem the most money isn't because of the registry. That may be the case for common cards in the sets. It's because the cards in PSA slabs have always been stricter graded than the other guys. And we've known that from the beginning. Me collecting SGC graded cards way back in the past, we always knew back then most of the time you get you get a discount on SGC because the card's normally lower in quality than its counterpart PSA. I have always rang that bell. The reason PSA deems the most money is because most of the time when you get a PSA 5, it is a higher quality card than an SGC 5. I know everyone's all angry right now in the comments, the SGC fans and everybody, but it's true when you do an overall basis, and it's always been that way. That's why I've collected all my whole life. So I don't have a vendetta against any of the other companies. But to pull arbitrage back in the day from an SGC 8 to a PSA 8 was very difficult because most of the time that SGC 8 was going to be a PSA 7. And today, the stretch is even bigger in my opinion. So that's my 2 cents. And I love that. I know this was kind of off topic, but kind of the same. So there, I'm done. Mic drop.
Well, yeah, interesting. I was unaware of that historical discrepancy between SGC and PSA, and that we all knew the PSA graded harder. I thought Beckett back in the day, Beckett cards sold for more than, like, a Beckett 9.5 was on par or sold more than a PSA 10. That's definitely changed over time now, and I think that's really a bit of a branding thing more than anything else. But it's not just like branding by PSA, it's also branding by the hobby on their behalf. The hobby is a great marketing tool. PSA markets, of course, but they have a bit of a, yes, Dylan. Yeah, I'm going to stop myself mid-sentence if you put your hand up. So yeah,
Jeremy, that was modern cards though. Beckett didn't grade. I have some Beckett graded vintage cards before they switched to BVG. I still have some actually Beckett BGS, but once they switched to BVG, that was like 2 grades below PSA and 1 grade below SGC.
Yeah,
So to be fair, that was modern you're talking about, and that's a whole nother ballgame.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking back to when I did some crossovers back. I was doing a few crossovers from Beckett to PSA back in like 2011, 12, 13, 14, those years. And my BGS 9s, every single time I submitted a BGS 9.5, it came back a PSA 10, gem mint to gem mint.
Okay.
My understanding, I haven't attempted this in years, is that BGS 9.5s don't cross to PSA 10s nearly like they used to. So either PSA's gotten harder or BGS has gotten easier on their grading, or a bit of a combination of both. So, okay. Joe, both of you actually, anything else you want to mention on this topic before we move on? No. Okay. Then with that, and I know Dylan came with several topics, a couple, one I know about, one I do not. And I just scroll. I cannot keep up. Guys, I say at the top of the show, your comments and questions are in play. You're making that very difficult for me, but I love it. Thank you so much. So I have been marking several comments that maybe we'll come back to them later on the show. Maybe I'll have to do a separate episode, just reading the comments we didn't get to, or maybe I can do a screenshot of them and share them on Instagram, something like that. But we'll have to see. In the meantime, Dylan, let's talk about one of the 2 topics that you're bringing to the table tonight. And I'm going to let you introduce the one you want to talk about first. So the floor is yours, my friend.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about this. I think this is going to resonate. I'm bringing this up because it's going to resonate with the new basketball, not new basketball collectors, but since Topps is taking over basketball, and I think they're taking over football next year, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a great time to bring this to the forefront. And I wanted to talk about, I got inspired by my buddy Shane Shoebox Legends, and I think he might have gotten inspired by somebody else, but talking about Topps and their lineage and hobby first, like not hobby first, like Topps first. I know a lot of people are confused on what to collect on modern cards. I'm in the vintage world. That was my main passion, but I have rotated into really loving the modern cards. And when I say modern, I mean everything that is in vintage. And I'm really digging it. And in particular, I really love, like, so for example, like 2001 Topps, the Topps golds, they numbered them to the year, like this lineage of when they started. They have continued that on until present day. So to me, like, collecting those cards, they're very important to the hobby itself. And for me as a collector, I really enjoy those. And on a value money basis, those hold true. And then you can go back to like 1993 Topps Finest, the first refractors ever. 2009 Topps Chrome was the first year they numbered the gold parallels to 50, and they've kept that tradition all along. So I thought we could kind of talk about hobby first. And what I wanted to share was a piece of my collection that I am really passionate about, and it ties into this. So in 1996, and I'll start out in 1995, Mickey Mantle passed away. In 1996, Topps decided to make Mickey Mantle base card number 7. So they honored Mickey Mantle because of basically Mickey Mantle created Topps. That's what made Topps popular, because the 52 Topps set and 52 Mickey Mantle. So Topps decided to honor Mickey Mantle in 1996 with card number 7 in the base set. They had never done this before with honoring a Hall of Famer or a past player that I'm aware of. And they never put them in the base set before. So in 1996, yes, Jeremy.
Thank you, Dylan. When you say that Topps has basically given Mickey Mantle card number 7, to me that sounds really cool. It's like when a team retires a player's number, like only that player can ever again, if they're reincarnated, use that number again. They can't, right? That to me is the equivalent of a jersey number retirement by a franchise. Topps retired his number. I think I didn't know that, Dylan. I think that is so cool. I love the concept. I love the concept of a card company retiring someone's card number. Yeah, I think that's so cool. But then you know what the downside of that is? If you're a binder collector and you got your base set, I mean, I look at the bottom, 9, 18, 27, 36, 45, 54, 63, right? 72, 81, 99. Like, I've been looking at binders lately, so I know all the way. That throws that off. All that experience is now gone if they're skipping a number in the set, because unless you just leave, now what I would do is I would leave that one hole empty, slot 7 on sheet 1. But I guess that's the way around that. So not the big deal. I love that they retired that card number. I think that's so cool.
So I'll finish so that they get to that. So,
sorry.
1996 was the very first year that Topps Chrome came out. And it happened to be the year that they retired Mickey Mantle number 7. And this happens to be the first year they did refractors in Topps Chrome, because the first year they did Topps Chrome. And then after 1996, they basically lost his license, Mickey Mantle's license. So from then on, they took number 7 out. Like you said, they took it out. They just retired that in those base sets. And then they brought it back when they reacquired his license in 2006, all the way to 2012. And they only produced Mickey Mantle at card number 7. And so for me, going back and collecting the first of all these, and a vintage collector like me, going for Mickey Mantle base cards in the rarest forms I can possibly collect is mind-boggling. And to me, the Mickey Mantle thing, it's part of his base set. It's part of, I know it's after his playing days, but to fast forward a little bit, after that, to move on to the first, they have first of everything. So like 2004 was the first year they started issuing printing plates. And I love collecting printing plates. So I am trying to collect all the Mickey Mantle printing plates from all those years. Yes, Jeremy.
Thank you, Dylan. I'm curious about printing plates. There are 4 printing plates per card, really. do you favor any particular CMYK printing plate over the other printing plate? Is cyan, magenta, CM yellow, or the black, which is the K, which means key? Are any of those better than the others, in your opinion?
Great question. It's on a per card basis. So I have found black and whites are normally pretty nice, but I found some ugly ones too. So literally you have to look at every card, every one that pops up, you have to look at. I think the worst ones seem to be the yellows. I have one yellow because it looks good. All the rest, they don't look that good. Cyan seems to be good, magenta, but it's on a per card basis.
Okay, so there's not an overriding principle rule in your mind that says magenta is the one or black is the one because it brought the most ink to the card. Nothing like that. They're all on equal footing, in your opinion.
Yeah, to me, they're all on equal footing. It just depends on the card and the coloring of that card and what they
how
did
it
with
looks.
And I know that you're not like a huge fan of the printing plates, but for me as a Topps collector, it blows my mind that those made all the rest of the cards that are produced in that year. You literally have the proof. You have that. So anyways, I could go on about the Mickey Mantle thing and how they retired the number after that as well. And then they only gave it to Yankees players. And now they finally have it. It's kind of open. They give it to anyone. But I love firsts. I don't know if you guys have ever collected in that way or thought about hobby first, like card number ones that Topps gave out. I just think that for guys coming in from basketball, going from Prism to Topps, it's going to be good for them to know, I bring up Mangini a lot because he's always like, don't tell people how to collect or why would you ask someone what to buy and what's going to be worth the most in the future? Because we really don't know. But it is really nice to get a nice footing and to kind of figure out what seems to be the most collected. And to me, the most collected are the ones with the longest lineage. So the blacks and all that. Whereas the prisms, they kind of run on a different scale. So I thought it was an interesting topic, and I love firsts across the board with Topps.
I like firsts too in many cases. The biggest first in our hobby is the rookie card. That's the biggest first out there. But it goes beyond just rookie cards. There are other things. The first card of the set, the first jersey card ever, the first pack pulled autograph card, the first jambalaya, the first refractor. It's all the first PMGs. It's all, I like firsts as well. I think it's cool. It's cool stuff. It's enjoyable. It's the first iteration of the idea. So, Joe, what's going on in your mind back there as Dylan's talking and responding, and maybe you're keeping your eye on some. Are you keeping your eyes on comments at all in the chat, or are you not looking at them?
Not so much.
Not so much. What's going through your mind?
I need my readers for that, and no, I mean, what's going through my mind is that I was opened up to the notion of firsts significantly by our esteemed colleague Christopher McGill, otherwise known as Hosh. He really dials into aspects of firsts in ways that have attuned my sensibilities, and a lot of it's actually in the Panini era so flexing over to the Topps era and starting to learn some of these things that I had no idea about. I mean, Dylan's, educating us tonight, but you have so many different Panini issues. So, you got, whatever Gala, you got, Select, and, then you got the courtside issue. You got this, even to the point where Hosh goes, I mean, and I think this is standard. I mean, Victor, I think, talks a lot about this, but the earliest number in the set, right, becomes the more important card in many instances. And that's a sensibility that I just never had, within the last 2 or 3 years that's developed, and I'm a lifelong collector. So it's interesting. It all, to me, connects deeply to the preoccupation and or importance of the rookie card, right? And And so from there, that impulse to get the first, to kind of locate where and when something began, the origin of something. I think that's a really juicy element of the collector's mindset. And so I think there's a lot of ways you can apply that. I think there's a lot of different ways that you could sort of look for firsts and understand first, whether it's a serial number, it's like number 1 of 99 or number 1 of 10. That all of these things come into play because, and that's what makes collecting so fantastic, is there's just a multitude of details, an infinite number of complexities to take into account. So I don't know. I appreciate it. I kind of want to learn a little bit more, because those mantles, you got my attention there, Dylan. You got my attention with those mantles.
So I was telling Dylan the other day that I remember being at the second Burbank Sports Card Show, now known as the West Coast Card Show, and there was a dealer there that had a whole bunch of Topps Chrome, maybe refractor, maybe not, like replicas of the classic Topps rookie cards, and non-rookies, the 52 Topps Mantle, the Hank Aaron, the Nolan Ryan, a whole bunch more. And Dylan, I went by that booth several times to look at those cards, because they are just beautiful, beautiful cards. And they've taken what is otherwise a pretty, the Mickey 52 Topps Mickey Mantle, it's a work of art. It's a beautiful card, but Topps makes it even more beautiful by adding the gold border, some shine. And shine as in shine, like light shining, not shine from the hobby. But just to be clear, but they're so nice. And then I think about, since 2001, I've been collecting in hockey the Topps Heritage base set parallel. They call it the retrofractor. It's like refractor, but a retrofractor. I have the two of the 3 complete sets that they ever made, Topps Heritage in hockey, the retrofractor complete set, and I love them. They are so darn beautiful. So I love this modern card of vintage players as well. And even the Wayne Gretzky has a Topps, and I believe an O-Pee-Chee blast from the past rookie card, like a reissue, not a reissue, but I don't know. What do we call? I don't even know what we're calling these things anymore, but it's a blast from the past, like a tribute, like a reprint, if you will. And it's the refractor sometimes sells for more than the actual rookie card does. They are so darn nice. So I love the way you're collecting. I love these Oh, is your hand up, Joe? I'm sorry. Yes, Joe. Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I everything you're saying is you
were doing this. I thought you were wax on, wax offing or something.
No, I was trying to raise my hand, but my
because of the green screen. Got it. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, just interjecting real quick, because you mentioned heritage, and so I have a regret from about maybe 3 Fanatics Sunday nights ago, and that is when I was a young whatever child, burgeoning adult, whatever. 1976 Topps was the packs that I was opening. And so I love 1976 Topps, and they have the leaders cards, and Topps Heritage made an issue of the home run leaders for, I guess, 2024. And it included Ohtani, the great Ohtani. Did you guys hear about Ohtani? You had kind of like the most historical baseball game ever last night. So anyway, I was looking at the gold vinyl 1 of 1 Topps Heritage home run leaders, and I was like, oh, that's going over 1,000. Oh, do I pay over 1,000 for a gold vinyl 1 of 1 with Ohtani, with like a style, a set that I love? Oh, it's going up to 15. It's going up to 60. I just can't. I regret so much that I didn't get that Ohtani card. I think it had a Kyle Schwarber on there too, and like someone else, but Ohtani was at the top, and it was a beautiful card. So yeah.
Let me correct you, Joe, because you're a basketball collector now having to collect Topps. That was a super refractor.
Oh, it wasn't a gold vinyl?
No.
That's the Panini. That's the Panini right there. Yeah. So Dylan, before Joe raised his hand, I was just talking about how, I love your newfound love, or your what, maybe it's not so newfound. I love the way you're collecting and you're finding enjoyment. You're finding hobby enjoyment, and these cards aren't super expensive. So you're able to collect budget conscious. You're able to collect players you love and cards you love to look at. Like, there are vintage cards that I know are super important. The Baltimore News Babe Ruth, which I crap on all the time because I just don't think it's a nice piece of cardboard, but I know it's super important. Put a nice refractor shine on that. I bet I'd like it a lot more. Same thing goes with the Star 101 MJ. There's a beautiful refractor version that came out later. It's way nicer than the actual card. Way nicer. Like, that card's a cheap thing you made. It's a broder for all intents and purposes. These are so nice. So I love how you're collecting. Why don't you just sort of respond to this? But before you do, I'm just going to let everyone know, Mikey Singer from the Sport Card Expo, which is happening in a couple weeks. He's in the back room. We're going to bring him out for about 5 minutes to let us know what's going on with that. And another show that he's doing in the Toronto area, which some of you might find interesting. But first to Dylan, then to Mikey, and then we're going to come back to this conversation after Mikey comes on. So Dylan, please continue. Please reply to how much what Joe said and how much I love what you're doing.
Yeah, the topic that I was the second topic that I was thinking of was a lot of guys in the community, the vintage guys. We really, a lot of guys, like, the moral thing is, like, the thing that most people think that everybody does is go backwards. Every time you're collecting, you've been collecting forever, you always end up going backwards. You know what? Going forwards is just as fun and epic. And I'm not trying to, like, tell people they need to go collect modern cards and like vintage players on modern cards. But to me, the vintage players on modern cards, if you do it in a safe way, you're not, like you say, you're not spending a lot of money. I think they're just as safe as buying the vintage cards. They've already had their thing, and they're beautiful to look at. I just wanted to encourage people to kind of step out of their comfort zone. And if they have an attraction to some shiny stuff, man, jump in, try it out. It's really, really fun. And I'm excited for the basketball collectors to enter the Topps world again, because to me, the Panini, the Prisms, the designs seem to be relatively the same. They kind of like computerized designs. They're not really like Topps has completely different designs every year. Now, that could just be me being dumb. But to me, the Panini designs, they almost all kind of look the same, where Topps drastically changes their designs every year. And I think it's going to be exciting for these guys. I'm excited for basketball collectors to go out there and get it. Only caveat is the refractors don't look anywhere near as good as the Panini refractors. So that's on Topps, that's on Fanatics to go back to the old days and get that shine going again. But I'm excited. I just want to encourage people, vintage guys, to try something different. Try and get some shiny stuff and see how it goes.
Yes, please, Joe.
Real quick, just in some instances, there's not as much available in the past as there is in the present. And what I'm speaking to is, the Satchel Pages and the Josh Gibsons and the Dutch Leonards. Like, there's some cards that Topps has been propagating where we just don't even have precedence for those. So that's exciting too. And I love what you're saying. I'm real curious what Hoj is going to say later on tonight. We like shiny cards. I'm a vintage guy, but I love my refractors. And, you're getting me excited about the Topps. The one thing I did want to sort of just acknowledge, though, is since I haven't held a whole lot of Topps Chromium in hand, is it really the case that they're just not quite as nice as Panini?
Not even close. The Panini still has like the old 90s shine. And the Topps Chrome is just kind of, it's like flat. It doesn't have that. It's still beautiful. They're great. But no, you guys are going to be very disappointed in the shine. Yeah.
So two things. I agree with you, Dylan, that Panini's designs look the same year over year to me, whether it's NT or Prism. I think 2012 and 13 do stand out, maybe because I've looked at them so much that they look much different. But you go back to the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, every card they were so different year to year. All of a sudden, 75 Tops hockey or baseball comes out, and you're like, what is this? This is awesome with the two-tone, and then 76, it's like totally mute, right? White borders, not much action. I loved waiting for the hockey set to come out every year in the 80s and seeing those first samples of what they're going to look like. So I agree with you on that. Now, I just want to let everybody know, when these guys were talking, I've been kind of scanning through the comments. I have 61 comments that I've starred to address. 61 comments that I would like to be reading out loud and addressing that we have not had time to do. So, but I'm gonna try to find a way to get to those guys. I'll try and find a way. In the meantime, let's have a little bit of an intermission here. 5-minute intermission, and let's bring on Mikey Singer, my good buddy from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. He is the guy who he doesn't own the expo, but he runs the logistics at the expo in Toronto. Not the vendor relation stuff, the on-site stuff. He's the man. He's my good friend, Mikey Singer. I'm bringing you on right now. Welcome back to the show. We're going to go quick, bro, because we got hot topics, but I want to...
Hot topics.
First of all, if you have any thoughts on anything we've been talking about, go ahead and mention it. Anything you've heard that you wanted to opine on whatsoever?
Honestly, you know what? It's funny. I've been now in the hobby since I started with the show in 2018, and I have my things that I collect, and to each their own, right? Like, what I'm collecting right now. I'm chasing every great Jewish baseball player, and some of them are pretty easy to get. Like, I just got a Sean Green rookie auto. That was super easy to grab and not super expensive. The Hank Greenberg that I'm chasing and that I lost on the latest Fanatics auction.
That went high.
Some are a little harder to get. I got the Mo Berg. So it's really I love hearing people collecting what they love. I love that.
I just want to share something else that you collect, if I may.
Yeah.
That series that you recently, I think, completed. Can I share that? Can I tell people what that is? Mikey
it's beside me.
Show them. Mikey has also been collecting. I'll let you show them. I don't need to ruin. I'll let you.
So I bought all of these in 1990, 91, and 92. Upper Deck came out with these Heroes sets signed and autographed by a bunch of amazing players over a bunch of different so that was Hank Aaron, Joe Namath, Joe Montana, and I've completed the set. It took me 4 years to do so. The first one I bought was the Gretzky. The last one I bought is right here.
So I think it's awesome that the Upper Deck Heroes header cards autos. I think that's awesome. Or hold on, guys. Orlando.
This is the last piece that I finally just grabbed from one of our partners at the Sport Card Expo, Slab Sharks. I got it on auction. But again, each of those has a memory for me. I opened a shit ton of those packs.
We don't
chasing those cards. Obviously, sorry, excuse my language. I said the S word. But I opened a ton of those packs. I spent hundreds of dollars when I would $20 to me in the 90s was huge. So I spent tons and tons of money opening those packs, never got one. And now as I have adult money, as people often say, I went out and chased them and completing the set this year was super fun. And now I'm going to get that last one graded at the show this year.
I think they're awesome, dude. I love that you're finding value in what we often call the junk wax era. And you have, I love that collection of yours. Now, I was going to jump in and say, as Orlando mentions, Mikey Singer also runs the Strongsville show.
We do. So I'll give a little background. So our company, MKM, there's about 7 of us who work and run these shows. Steve is the man. He is the man who's got the vision, has really taken the show from Toronto when he took it over in 2017 to the level where it is today. And it really competes with any other show anywhere in the world. And it's not just because of how many vendors or people have come. He does a lot to up the quality of the show, whether it's putting money into the stage or different things that he's trying, the caliber of guests that we bring in, the different things he tries. We've done everything from Joe Montana throwing footballs to people on a patch of green carpet to Reggie Jackson playing catch with people. Like, we try to create experiences. So that's what really has helped the show grow. And I think helped the hobby, right? Like, having an awesome show to go to and everyone to gather around ends up helping the hobby overall.
Absolutely.
And that's what I'm trying to do with the other show that we got coming up that you alluded to. So
yeah,
quickly.
listen, I support Mikey. I support the Sport Card Expo, but let people know what you're doing. And by the way, Mikey, please meet Dylan from Hawaii, and Joe, but Dylan, please meet Mikey. Yeah.
Dylan, great wall, man. Awesome wall. Like, you got a really eclectic collection. I think is that some records behind you and some stuff?
It's my wife's artwork, and then I have I got cards everywhere.
Yeah.
Hey, Mikey, was that a SP Upper Deck that you shared?
Yeah.
I have the whole set on my wall right now, right there, of the baseball.
Oh, that's awesome. Exactly. So that's exactly. So I went and got every single, and obviously there's no set list. So I'm like going in and trying to find every single one that exists from across the different. I mean, it was 3 years. There's 2,500 of them. And, it's funny. If I had started in this hobby in 2018, I could have got them at hundreds of dollars. Obviously, none of them. Some of them weren't. Some of them were hundreds. Some of them were thousands. And obviously, coming from Canada, you have better access. I will say that. I always have to look at that number and add 40%, whatever it is. But it was an awesome collection. I've done that a couple times. I grabbed the 2003 Bazooka comic set. Right. And that, like, some of the hard, like, I had to find a TJ Ford and like no one had it. So finding that in a good condition, and it's usually not like the best players that are hard to find. It's Nick Collison. No one was collecting the Nick Collison thing. So stuff like that is really cool and a fun part of the hobby.
So, Mikey, tell us about the other show that you're doing in Toronto. When is it? What is it? Go ahead, please.
So a week today, we'll be opening the doors about 12 hours ago to the upcoming VGLX. So it's a video game based show. So really that's the core focus, but it's about gaming overall and gaming culture. So we'll have a big TCG section there. We have 50 different people who are game developers who are starting their brand new games and showcasing them. AMD is there. They've got their free play area plus a Minecraft area. Then we've got MSI again with like a free COD area. We have vintage video games. We have game swap people. We have artists, cosplay, all of that. And because I'm also part of the Sport Card Expo, we're doing a giveaway. We're actually running a promo. So anyone who's a Sport Card Expo, SCE15, you get 15% off. And then you get entered to win either this signed Jeremy Roenick, beautiful CD of NHL 2K3, or a 97 Brett Hall signed, or for the lovely female collectors in our crowd, or anyone who likes the PWHL, the Golden Girl Marie-Philippe Poulin signed Barbie, all available. If you buy a ticket, you get entered to win. See, I get to do a super quick promo there and keep it relevant.
You had me. So I don't know about you. I collect vintage video games, not cartridges. I collect. Like at the Saskatoon show last weekend, I bought the mini Donkey Kong and the mini Donkey Kong Jr. So, Dylan, you know what I'm talking about, right? Like here.
This is perfect. This is exactly. And look, I have my Nintendo, I have my Super Nintendo, I have my N64, and they're plugged in, and I have my Sega Genesis. Like, this is awesome. Like, I love this. And look, we are children of the 90s. That is why I started this show with a couple great people. We're really trying to create another awesome community. We see it so much with the Sport Card Expo, and it's amazing to see. There's 30,000 people there, all sharing in the same hobby. This won't be anywhere near that size to start, but hopefully in 3 to 5 years we'll be at that. And again, we'll bring you all out to it, and hopefully it's good enough to draw you out from Hawaii, because that's quite the trip.
And then Expo, Sport Card Expo, Toronto version is coming here in November 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th in that time. So
6th to the 9th, it's going to be at the International Center again. Another 200,000 square feet. PSA's back grading on site again. I just made mention to it. Like, I'll be grading. Beckett, PSA will both be on site grading. I have stuff for both of them. Literally, like, it's the best.
Did you he missed the first hour of the show, which is okay. Of course, PSA is going to be there.
Yes,
great.
I know. I did miss
great.
the first hour. I was on a date tonight with my wife in the brief time that we have in between, but I did make sure I was here almost 10 minutes before airtime. But yes, and honestly, like that's the best part about the show. There's so many options. Like Tag's going to be there accepting. I'll do some stuff with them too. I do a lot of actually my hollows. I specifically collect Optic is what I like. I like their hollows. I like some of their numbered cards. That's my favorite brand. The fact that they lost the license is crushing to me. Like you made mention of it about the Topps Chrome. Like I have a couple of Topps Chrome of Brandon Miller's. I hate them. I love the player. I don't like the card. I'm sure it will get better. Like, and not to say that Fanatics doesn't know what they're doing, but I love Optic. Like it's not that I didn't even love it's very.
I think I like it too. I like Optic too, more than Prism.
I do. I liked it more than Prism, and I love that it was cheaper. Like it doesn't matter to me that it's not going to be the most expensive card or most desirable. To me, it's what I like to collect. I have so much of it though.
Yeah,
I should
know.
probably
I've
pare down my collection.
He's got tons of cards everywhere. Mikey. Yeah. Okay, buddy. Listen, thank you for coming on. Good luck with your show next week.
Awesome. Thank you.
I will see you at the expo. Talk soon. Good luck with everything, and thanks for showing your collection.
Oh, man. Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here as always. We'll probably chat again before the show. Jeremy, can't wait to see you on the stage. Have you bigged up that you'll be doing Q&As?
I have. I don't. Have I what?
He'll be doing Q&As. He's playing coy. He sent me his request list.
Well, but you haven't
tell anyone.
I told, there's a couple of players I want to sit on the stage with an interview before their autograph signings. But you tell me, we'll have to see. So I'm not saying anything until you tell me it's happening.
He'll be locked in. He's one of the best interviewers. Great to be on the show again. Congratulations, guys, and have a good one. I'll watch it now.
Now, before we move along, everybody, I want to. I just learned Brad's Vintage says, Dan, have you seen the Vectrex Mini they are coming out with? Because Dan said, show the Vectrex, Jeremy. The Vectrex is in my basement, so it's not in here. Dan, it's too big to fit on my shelves, so I don't have it. I don't have it up here. But a Vectrex Mini is coming out. Oh my God, talk to me, Brad. Talk to me. Okay. Let's get back. Let's go back in time now to where we were. I kind of forget where we were, but we had our little intermission with Mikey. Thanks, Mikey, for coming on. Dylan. Oh, Joe. Yes, please. Joe Poirot, please.
Well, I'm first of all, I didn't know Mikey did Strongsville. So, and I know there's a lot of people out there that are big Strongsville fans. And frankly, I might make it to a Strongsville show someday. And I'd like to make it to an expo. I'd like to make it to Toronto for variety reasons, including Toronto's international reputation with all sorts of beautiful people. In terms of Dylan's time, I want to make sure that he gets to talk about sort of the retro modern and the modern retro. Dylan, did you get to sort of pontificate on that to the degree? And I know Jeremy's got some transitions to go through, so you have to keep it like 30 seconds.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I had plenty to say. I just want to say Mikey brought some energy. That guy's awesome.
Oh yeah.
I could have talked to him for an hour. I wanted to raise my hand and dude, you're the best. So that was cool. I was glad to meet him. Are you,
Dylan, are you going to come to the Strongsville show next April?
No, it's just too far for me.
Yeah.
I'm going to do California shows from here on out.
Okay. Oh, that's cool. I've told Mikey I'm coming, so and I've told other people I'm coming. I've told myself I'm coming. I want to definitely go to that one for sure. Okay, so Mike, Dylan, was there another? Okay, before you get into it, was there another topic that you did want to talk to, or have we gone through your topics of the night?
Yeah, we're good.
We've gone through them. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I'm just asking because both Chris Hoge and Josh Adams have now shown up in the back room. We had one guest cancel last minute. He was coming, then he's like, I can't come. My daughter's got a competition. I'll be driving for my daughter. No problem. We'll reschedule. We'll have him back. Actually, you know who that was, guys? If you guys remember from last week, we had that one guy in the comments who I said to him, I go, hey, send me a message. I want to know who you are. Well, that guy sent me a message. We did a private meeting here in the studio. Great guy. His name's David. Empire State on Instagram. No, not Empire State. That's Mark. Upstate Sports Cards on Instagram. We're gonna have him on. He was supposed to come on tonight, but anyway, he didn't. So because we lost him, I brought Chris and Josh on a bit earlier. And Joe, you're staying on a lot longer than I thought you were going to be able to stay on. What's your schedule looking like right now?
I might have a few more minutes. I'd love to see I'd love to just get Hoge's weather report on what's been discussed so far, and then I might be out.
Okay, well, let's do that. Hoge, I'm going to bring you on, and then we'll bring Josh on once you drop off, Joe. Okay. Here comes Hoge. And Dylan, do you know Chris?
I know him. I never met him.
Here you go. I get the honor of introducing Mr. Christopher McGill to Mr. Dylan Davis, Double D's Vintage Baseball Cards. Say hi, guys.
Great to share a screen. Hello, Dylan. I'm very familiar with your content as well. Occasional odd animal noise in the background is one of the signatures that I enjoy quite a bit. Great to be here.
That means a lot, Chris. Thank you. I listen to your podcast and always, when I first heard you, I've heard you years ago. I was like, man, he goes deep. And then I'd be like, well, that's too deep for me. And then I fell in love. Like, I was like, you know what? I really like going deep like this. You get the brain moving. I'm like, thinking about collectibles and cards, like the way that you talk about them. So it's an honor to meet you, Chris. So virtual handshake.
Very kind, my friend.
There we go. The
Jeremy,
virtual handshake.
Great show so far, as usual here. I do have some notes.
Let's why don't you share it? You know what? Hey, Josh, you can join us too, Josh. You want to come on? You're okay. Let's bring on Josh too, just to bring him on. And I want to introduce Josh to Dylan. Joe, stick around as long as we're going 5 ways here, guys. Please welcome Josh Adams back, everybody. He's coming on at the end of the night, joining us. Dylan, please meet Josh, meet Dylan.
Dylan, nice to meet you. Christopher, Joe, Jeremy. It's still a pleasure.
Nice to meet you too, Josh. Honor to share a screen with you.
We're on
very nice.
It's like
and Dylan, Josh is a partner of 90s Auctions. So just so you know. Okay. Chris, let's hear some of your thoughts on the earlier parts of the episode.
I wonder if the chat's going to be with me on this. I DM'd Joe during the show about an hour in, and I said, buddy, you are like Michael Jordan when he came back wearing the 45 tonight. This is your double nickel in Madison Square Garden. Everything he said was just resonating deeply with me tonight. And I just wanted to call out excellence. I like to do that. When somebody goes above and beyond, I like to acknowledge it. So we'll let that sink in for just a second. And then, Jeremy, you brought up Dan's video. Dan the Card Band's video that covers the topic of the upcharge. I messaged Dan today as well. I told him I thought he did an excellent job on that video. I think he always brings a fair and a balanced approach. He brings his business expertise to the table, his expertise in as he calls it, bean counting, and I thought he knocked it out of the park, analyzing and dissecting that video. One of the points that he made, one of the points that got reiterated here, is just knowledge of collectors to know that, for example, the initial submitter is not protected by the guarantee. That's good. That's something good to keep in mind as we consider and weigh these options. So I thought that discussion was fantastic as well. So there's a few notes, Jeremy, on a great show so far.
Well, thank you, Chris. I appreciate you. I appreciate you watching. I know you're a busy guy, so it's always nice to know that you're
not that busy, Jeremy. I'm always listening to hobby content.
Yeah, well, but you're working and listening, aren't you? You know, that's great, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate the call out for Joe. Joe always balances me out a little bit. You saw I got a little heated earlier in the show during that first hour. I got pretty heated because I get frustrated by things that I see in the hobby, and I think a lot of us do, and a lot of us just express it differently. And so that was one of my opportunities to do that. But any other thoughts on anything else that we talked about? I
have one more, but Jeremy, we should save it for the end of the show if it has time, because it's going to put everybody to sleep. But Dylan was diving into firsts, It was
Oh.
terrific. It was obviously it resonated deeply with me, as Joe might have pointed out. But I want to make a case for the first using logic as the core of the argument. But that's there are hundreds and hundreds of people watching this. Let's save that for the end of the episode if we have time. All right, it will put people to sleep.
Let's save it for the lullaby portion of the episode. Okay, well, we are now at a point where we have a couple of options, guys. We can. Dylan, please, double D, Dylan.
Hey, I would stay on all night. Before you kick me off, anyways. I told my wife I was gonna be like an hour and a half. So I do got to jam, but I'm so glad I got to meet Josh and Chris real quick. As it may be, I will still be tuning in. Jeremy, it's been an honor. I'm truly honored that you had me on your show. I know I get out of control. I'm excited. I fumble with my words. I'm not elegant. I love talking about sports cards and baseball cards and collecting. So I can't tell you how much it meant to me. Joe, your friendship has meant so much to me. I will continue to text you constantly. So with that, I will sign off.
No, okay. First of all, I don't think we're ready to dismiss you. You tell your wife. Dylan, it's been great having you. I look forward to our friendship as well. So thank you for coming on. And I love your energy, buddy. Seriously, we'll have you back. Thank you so much for coming on, and say hi to the wife and have a good rest of the evening.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Joe, you're bouncing too? You're muted.
I'm going to be listening, and but I'm going to bounce, and but yeah, really cool show. The Mikey Singer cameo took me by surprise, because he's usually I feel like he's usually talking about shows and venues and this and tables, and all of a sudden he was pulling out these old Upper Deck auto cards, and his like collecting streak came through. So that was super cool. And I met Mikey, I think, once at the Burbank show, but I really do want to try and get to Toronto sometime, and I definitely want to get to Strongsville. So excited to know that Mikey is in charge of both of those, and everyone that's going. I'm sure it's going to be great. And thank you for a great night, Jeremy.
Thank you, Joe. Always great to have you. Thank you for hanging out for the first couple hours. We'll talk soon. Thanks, buddy.
Awesome.
Good night. Good night, Joe. All right. So, Josh, anything on your mind hobby-wise? Any topics that you have in mind that you thought, hey, I hope we can chat about this tonight?
Not really. I enjoyed listening to the first couple hours. I'll be in Toronto in a couple weeks, so I'm excited about that. So that'll be fun.
I will see you there.
I'll
Chris?
be there Friday. Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah, you'll be there Friday. You'll miss my Thursday evening thing. That's okay. You're dismissed from that, but I look forward to seeing you on Friday. And you have a chair at my booth and a headquarters at my booth if you need it, as always.
Thank you. All right.
Chris, how about you? Now, before you introduce a topic and talk about it, as somebody called out in the chat a few minutes ago, definition of essence says you said you had 61 topics from chat that you wanted to cover. I had 61 comments that I have starred or fate, whatever it's called, I have noted to come back to. So definition of essence, thank you for calling me or reminding me of that, and we will definitely get to some of them. So Chris, I'm gonna ask you what do you want? Do you have a topic you want to talk about? Because if you do, let's do it. If you don't, I can go run through comments and we can all talk about some of the things that have been said over the course of the evening so far. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on a comment.
You gave me a binary. I'm going to choose option 3, which is I do have topics, but can we run through the comments first and then get to one? How about that?
We can. I'm up to 72 of them now. So
okay, so I feel like we need to catch up here.
But the problem is I'm going back to the beginning. These are going back to earlier in the show, but let's run through some and see what we want to stop and talk about a bit more. Bob Boozle says, grading company losing sight of why it exists. Mike Double V, I've never submitted to PSA and never will. Hobby Champ said, I am walking the walk. I have about 1,000 cards I want graded, but I haven't graded with PSA since 2011. Goes on to say, when you know what you're doing in the hobby, Jeff Wilson is either entertaining or anger inducing. The actual problems begin when people new to the hobby watch his stuff. I think that's a pretty fair comment. Like, Jeff doesn't, he said things that I've had to make comments on his videos before where I just think he's made an idiotic sort of comment. But I like Dylan said, Jeff, I can watch some of his podcasts and actually enjoy the interviews. I don't mind his interviews. I think they can be interesting. He gets some great guests. So I don't mind all of his content, but when he makes an idiotic or has an idiotic take or says something that's just stupid, I mean, I'll respond to it. But yeah, I like what Hobby Champs is saying here, that if you know what you're doing in the hobby, there's, unless you're like a gatekeeper or trying to protect future generations, he is what he is. Mike Petty says, PSA is in charge. We are sheep being led to the slaughter. Stuke said, I don't drink the PSA Kool-Aid. Dan the Cardman said, the irony of the upcharge being paid by a customer who won't benefit from the reason the upcharge exists in the first place is not lost on me. I'm going to reread that. Irony of the upcharge being paid by a customer who won't benefit from the reason the upcharge exists in the first place is not lost on me. That's what you were just mentioning as well, Chris. Situational Adventure says, Jeff is proving that there's no bad press. A whole week's worth of social media combating him. Yeah, I mean, a lot of attention. Orlando, a collector's dream, said, one grader grades the card. If it's a 10, a senior grader must approve it. It's pop control. Skeppy said, there you go. Every card is $50 to grade. No more value levels. Let's pause on this comment by Skeppy. I think this one has some merit. Now, I don't claim to know how to run a grading company at all, but if they could smooth those upcharges across all submissions, it would accomplish two things. The upcharges would go away, and they would also control the inflow and not have to grade as many cheaper cards, which I think a lot of the hobby would be happy about. Some people wouldn't be, but I think a lot of people would be happy about that, because why would you grade a card that's worth $10 if you're grading it? If a PSA 10 is worth $50, you're probably not going to pay $50 to grade that card. So it would help them from a demand perspective as well, which I think PSA is having demand issues. They have too much demand for their capacity, and they're trying to grow to deal with that. So I think that's a great comment from Skeppy there. Chris, you're nodding. What do you think?
Yeah, so I thought what you just said is an excellent insight. I think there are second and third order effects, like people who are environmentally conscious would have something to say about less plastic being used to grade cards, which is a valid consideration, I think, too. And I think it's something that grading companies, ought to, if they don't already, factor into their consideration. And, you presented it in a very business oriented way, which is sort of, if we can move the levers of pricing, and it might bring down the total number of cards graded, but the revenue could balance out if we reach that equilibrium point where there still are enough cards being graded to match the revenue that was being done before, or it might even increase the revenue approach depending on how many cards are graded. Now, and Dan made this point as well quite effectively, which is sort of, if we spread the upcharge out across more of the grading pool, that it could offset some of these like mind-boggling. I think Bob Boozle had a comment earlier in the chat that said, "What do you prefer, to have your mind blown or boggled?" I'm going to go boggled. It would be mind-boggling when you get one of these upcharges and that you weren't expecting, and then you have to make a tough decision as to what you do from there. But I do think there is another consideration too, which is that, most of the time people who are fielding upcharges are people in possession of very high value cards, and do we need to reduce their burden and pass it on to the guy who's grading the $50 or their $100 card? I don't know I think maybe the allocation of the burden going directly to the person who's submitting the higher dollar item, and then maybe there's a way to instead to address the issue of somebody coming in. Oh, go ahead. Yes. Sorry.
So you're not in favor of a flat tax then, is what you're saying?
I don't know, man. I don't know. Let's not extrapolate too far. I'm just saying things that come to my mind.
It's a similar approach, a similar concept, right? The flat.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting it, but that's kind of what Skeppy is saying. Like that's the flat tax.
Well, here's the thing. I don't think Bill Gates and me should pay the same amount of taxes if that's what we're getting at.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. That's just, call me a radical, but maybe there's a way to sort of work with people too. Like if somebody does stumble into an old collection, they've got a really nice card and they get it graded and they can't afford that upcharge. Maybe there's a way to personalize the experience and come to other ways to fund that upcharge or other ways to work with that customer. I don't know. I'm just spitballing there, but a great jumping off point there from that comment from Skip.
Yeah. Josh, any thoughts on that?
Yes, I was listening to all these comments about, upcharges and all that. And, just as a, full disclosure kind of thing, we send cards for our auction company to PSA for customers because that's what they want. We tell them we can get this graded for you. Where do you want it? We'll send it. And, 9 times out of 10, it's PSA and say, hey, there's going to be an upcharge. They're like, yeah, fine, no problem. Most people want it. But, I think you said earlier, this is a business. This is the free market. And the free market has said that these prices are acceptable because people keep paying them. People didn't want to pay them. They wouldn't have this. They wouldn't they keep raising the price on grades. And there still is a, backlog of cards to be submitted. It took me a long time to get cards back the last time. So, clearly the hobby itself, the free market is okay with this. So until it stops, it'll keep getting higher.
The hobby is okay with this for now. There's a lot of discourse about it and a lot of, criticism upon it, but it doesn't matter because the hobby is still paying their fees hand over fist. Okay. Stukes here says PSA might just make Beckett great again, which wouldn't be the worst thing for Beckett to regain some of its brand. Vintage Card Collector said PSA doesn't upcharge as often as mentioned. My experience is value has to be significantly above the level submitted. I haven't been upcharged several times when they could have. That's good to hear. Hobby Champ says, let's check their year-end bonuses for all their salaried higher-ups before we decide they need extra revenue from upcharges. Josh, please.
I'm all for this. However, I'm all for this. However, if someone actually thinks what this means, they also probably think they're a capitalist too. This is the exact opposite of capitalism. So, everyone loves the free market, and Dan Vintage Cards said it's not. It absolutely is, because people have free will. And when you send cards to PSA, you know what you're getting into, and it's written there in black and white that you might have to have an upcharge, and people willingly say, I'm okay with that. So it's absolutely a free market, and people willingly give PSA their money for this. So I lost my train of thought. Well, the point is, I don't know. Go on.
I was just saying, well, and it's not like you submit to PSA without knowing that you might get upcharged. Like you are agreeing to their terms when you submit cards to them. Their terms include you may be upcharged. So it may be a surprise to you, but that's on you. That's on you as an independent human being operating in this economy where that contracts are a part of just about everything we do. Chris, any thoughts? Oh, Josh, back to you first. You're the lawyer. Well, you're
sorry. Dan has always great comments, and this is no way, attacking Dan at all, but I would just respectfully disagree with him. It's a free market. There are other options, but again, the market has dictated PSA gets the most money for their cards when they're sold, so everyone goes to PSA. If BGS got the most money, everyone would go to BGS. It's capitalism. It's like literally that's the definition of capitalism. I don't like it either. So, all right, sorry. Go on.
No, that's good. No, thank you.
I think the point on the market and how free it is a valid one. And there is no picture perfect free market. Markets all markets to some degree have in some way, shape, or form somebody with a little more market power than the next. They can resemble monopolies or oligopolies or other types of structures with just a few dominant entities at the top. And that's a topic of macroeconomics. Is worthy of examination. I think, we could measure the percentages here and figure it out. The point that I wanted to chime in on is that the accompaniment to the free market is the free exchange of ideas. The marketplace of how to spend our dollars very naturally intersects with the marketplace of the exchange of ideas. And that's why, I operate and work on a very small hobby company. And there are lots of hobby companies in this space, content creators or entrepreneurs in a certain sense. I think we are actually in a realm of speech, of free speech that accompanies the free market, that provides such a source of just raw feedback. And some of it's actually very thoughtful and carefully packaged feedback, but it runs the gamut. And so in our particular community, in our particular space, the fact that we do have the accompaniment, we do have content creators who are speaking openly and freely and who are saying their genuine opinions in the comment sections, and collectors and everybody chiming in to provide their points of view, that is a very necessary component to a market that strives to be free, that we need both. We need to be able to be honest and straightforward and air our points of view. And the smart companies out there will listen, whether the point being made is critical or positive or somewhere in between. They will listen to all of it. And it's actually a benefit to them too, that this free exchange of ideas can exist.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think we're all here because we love this hobby. We love the hobby, the community, and we just want to see it be as good as it could possibly be. And I don't think we'll ever have consensus on what is as good as it could possibly be. But thank you, Hobby Champs, for the comments. Speaking of Dan the Card Man, now this comment here is over an hour and 15 minutes old, but he says PSA needs to shift their mindset from a financial interest in the card and back to a financial interest in the opinion they have assigned. I think a lot of people do feel that way. Stuke says PSA says they are collector obsessed, just like my former company said they were customer obsessed. Bottom line is what really matters to both. Situational Adventure said, wife is overhearing this conversation. She just blurted out, sounds like PSA is effing shady. She didn't even know what PSA was before 30 minutes ago. That's it's too bad, but it's the state of the situation. I guess Hobby Champ says, I don't care how many times there are upcharges. It shouldn't happen literally ever. It's a predatory practice that's objectively negative. I mean, I do see certain benefits of it. I do. Do I like it? No. But I see certain benefits. So when Hobby Champ says it's objectively negative, Josh, do you agree that upcharges are objectively negative, or are there some positives from them?
I can't believe I have to defend PSA here. So the whole point of the upcharge is that your car is worth more, right? That's why they do the upcharge. Like, you thought you were going to get a 5, you get a. I'm just giving plain. That's my understanding.
It's not the point of it. That's what drives it. But yes.
Yeah, so that's the point. But again, I mean, my whole thing is everyone knows this going into it. Like, this is not a surprise. So that's my biggest sticking point is people act like this is a surprise. They didn't know this was going to happen. You know, it's a possibility going into it that you could be charged more. This isn't like you sign a contract for a service and they say, hey, guess what? We're going to start raising money now because there's something that there's obviously contract law involved, but there's something we didn't anticipate. And there's certain times that does work, other times it does not work. Here, it's in black and white, and we're all adults, and you sign on a dotted line, and you agree to this. So for me, this whole outcry just, I don't know, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, before we move on, I'm going to then go to a comment that came in a few minutes ago from I think it was Hobby Champs again, and it was I thought it was a. Okay, I can't find it right now, so I'm just not going to be able to get to it. I apologize, everybody, for that little hiccup. Oh, Chris, did you have anything to say on that? Yeah.
I just wanted to follow up and actually literally answer the question that Josh asked, which is, why is this a big topic right now? And I think the thing that sparked it was that there was some sense that when the point was made and entered into that free marketplace of ideas, that somebody is happy to pay it. I think it went past the sniff test, is I think what happened. And people said, yeah, some of us, we grind our teeth and pay it, but we don't like it. But we pay it because we signed up to do it and we understand the cost benefit analysis and we've made the decision for ourselves as collectors. And then lots of people have chimed in and made what I think are some very thoughtful suggestions about how to improve and revise, or at least critically think about the policy that's worth having a hobby discussion about. But the thing that I think got people worked up, and and I can understand it, is that that the idea was sort of presented to them that this is great to have to spend more money. I think that was the bridge that was a bit too far. I think if like as a collector myself, I think almost anybody in the hobby period is they might reluctantly do it, but they're not volunteering to give money away. That goes beyond disbelief. It starts to feel a little bit disingenuous.
Yeah. So what you're talking about, I think what you're referencing, Chris, was the comment, the initial post that Jeff Wilson made saying, I couldn't be happier. I'm going to send them $5,000 because they just increased the value of my card by $50,000. I don't know if I have the numbers right. Doesn't matter. You get the point. And then I said this at the top of the show, and I think about that. I think it's the same card. It's the same card. Now it's in different wrapping paper. So, okay. It's like, and maybe this is the way the world works though, because I could go out I wear basically the same clothes every day, jeans and a t-shirt, socks and running shoes. That's my uniform. Like, I don't put any thought into what I wear. But if I'm going out to a nice dinner somewhere or a party where there's going to be a lot of, like, I don't know, cool people, trendy people, I can't go in that outfit because they're going to judge me as a person. They're going to judge me as a person. In their mind, they're PSA 10s and I'm probably a PSA 4 because I'm wearing jeans and a t-shirt that are not name brands. SCL is not a name brand. Okay. I wear swag full time. So, but if I were then to re-enter that room and I'm wearing, designer jeans, I don't even know. I can't even shout out a designer name. Louis Vuitton. I don't even know if they make jeans.
Ooh.
I'm wearing a very expensive. What's that?
Z Cavarici.
Never heard of it. So I'm wearing Z Cavarici, and maybe I've got on a very expensive watch, and maybe I got some diamonds on somewhere too, whatever it is. All of a sudden, I'm the same human inside, guys. I'm the same person with the same values and morals and family love and a love for the hobby and caring about my friends. Same person, but now I'm glammed up. I got the glitter on. I'm going to go back in that room. Those people are going to now look at me as if I'm also a PSA 10. Same person that was a PSA 4 to them earlier. So that's what we are doing. We are trying to impress other people so that they will pay more money for our cards by dressing them up it's almost backwards that SGC slab is referred to as a tuxedo, and PSA's doesn't have a name. PSA's slab should be called the most it should be the Lamborghini of the hobby. Like how people treat it. The card on the inside does not change whether it's raw in a PSA 9 holder or a 10 holder, same card, or in a Beckett or a BCCG or Tag or the Canadian companies, whatever, anything. It doesn't matter. The card is the same. So kind of forget why I'm going off on this rant right now, but I think it's basically that we have assigned, the hobby has assigned these values, and PSA has recognized that because it's hard to miss, and therefore they are charging for the designer brand of those clothes that they are putting your card in. The card is the same dang card, and that's where I get lost and will just never pay a premium for a PSA 10, or I don't need to outsource my judgment on a card's condition. That said, I do love when I spot under what I think is undergraded, because that's when I know I'm getting good value. So, okay, that's my rant. Chris, any response?
Great rant, man. I thought it was terrific, and there's been a lot of terrific comments flowing in too, man. I think people feel strongly about this, and it's a topic with a lot of opinions worth hearing.
Josh, any thoughts before we move along?
No, you said it perfectly.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate that. Hobby Champs here said, I don't care how many times there are upcharges. It shouldn't happen. Okay, we did that one. Sorry. James Reshin says, paid an appraiser to appraise my house. It went up $50,000 After he told me, he said I needed to pay him an extra $5,000 just because the value of my house just went up 50 grand. That's a joke. We definitely get the point. Neo says PSA can charge whatever they want because they can single. I think he corrected that, but he said, I'm just going to try and get it. PSA can charge whatever they want because enough people are clearly willing to pay. Exactly. Vintage Card Collector says, Hobby Champs, how is it predatory when it is disclosed? You cannot like the policy, but that's different than predatory. I agree with Vintage here. Jahan says, no prob. Have someone else submit. Oh, he's talking about Nat submitting cards to PSA. He says, nope. Oh, Nat, he says, Nat probably has someone else submit for him or uses a different name symbol. He does not need help with his collection. Get real. That's exactly what I think. I don't think he needs any help with his collection. Dan the Cardman says, if PSA ever goes public again, they're equivalent of an ECL, which I believe is an estimated credit loss, for their guarantees will be wilder than we can probably imagine. It's like a reserve for for the future liability of mis-slabbed cards. JA says, buy the card, not the slab generation. I love that comment right there. Situational Adventure says, collectors care, flippers don't. Repackers don't. Maybe the conversation is collectors are in the minority now. Well, yeah, because PSA's priced them out. Josh, I don't think he means in the minority overall. I think in the grading world, like as far as PSA customers.
I think for the most part, but I think in the social media realm, I think I would say the loudest, microphones, maybe, and I don't mean literally microphones, the loudest maybe accounts tend to drown out the collector, so to speak, like at least on social media is what I see. But that's a great point.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Rain the Tree says, I'm convinced PSA is using AI grading in some form, maybe a human grade followed by a baseball computer like AI review. I'm certainly not convinced of that. I don't share that thought. Auburn 35 said the guarantee is directly linked to upcharges. PSA is collecting on unrealized value. Yet when presented with a guarantee claim, there are several limits and restrictions on what they will pay out. There is a per card cap of, I think, $250,000 and a lifetime cap of $500,000, which, I mean, we've seen several $1 million sales this last month or so, and those cards aren't covered in their entirety. Neo goes on to say, in my opinion, PSA leans into the upcharges for insurance when in reality, it's more the second part of Nat's answer. They want more money because the PSA holder makes the card more valuable. Right. Just like designer clothes make me a better person. Exactly. Hobby Champ says, we never seen Neo touch on the fact that Nat Turner himself trashed the upcharge practice before he bought PSA. Yeah, I can't speak to whether Neo has said that or not, but I've seen that comment he made, that Nat made on Blowout in like 2019, has been making the rounds lately. And all I'll say to that is, yeah, he went from customer to owner. And when you change that, when you take off one hat, put on the other, your perspective is going to change. You're going to learn things you didn't know. So I don't really I do think that it is funny, but I also think if you think realistically and just like, if you're pragmatic about it, you can understand that he knows more. Plus he's not a collector over there anymore. He's running a business, shareholder value. Like I've said, Josh, you were.
You took the words out of my mouth. It's not as impeaching as people trying to think it is. It's just, you said he owns a business. Now he's supposed to make money. What's he supposed to say? I'm not going to charge more money. I'm pretty sure his investors would not like to hear that. And
with that said, I will say, because I still love that we have a collector at the helm of the biggest grading company in the industry. And I think that just imagine if Nat wasn't a collector, how much worse things could be. So we don't know. That's the thing. We don't know what the situation, what the scenario would be if it was owned by a capitalist who was not a lover of sports cards. Nat is a capitalist who loves sports cards. And I think that we may not know the benefits of that because we can't know them because we don't know what it would otherwise be. It's a different dimension. Chris, did you have anything to add?
I don't think it's a stretch to say when Nat does put his collector hat on and submit cards of his own to grading, he ain't going to be happy about paying an upcharge either. I don't think that's a stretch. I would love for somebody to ask him, do you like paying the upcharge? I'm sure as a collector, he doesn't either. I thought you articulated it very well. You have to wear multiple hats when you're operating in the space as a business owner and as a collector and so on and so forth. So I think that's a subtle point. That's and that's a good one. And I think even if his blowout post is epic, man. It got a lot of love back in the day, and still reading through it today. I query, how much of it he would still agree with when that collector hat is on. It's the business decision. Sometimes they're tough decisions, man. And I think, Jeremy, you do a nice job of articulating at the structural level, at the capitalist level, that the point of a company operating is to profit, and that decisions made in that arena are oriented towards maximizing shareholder value.
David Potsriba says they use the insurance answer as cover because we feel entitled to the value. So we feel entitled to the value they added to your cards. Power Wheel says if PSA upcharges because a high grade adds value to the card, if the card goes down in value, will they refund me? They will not, Power Wheels. That's my biggest issue with it, or one of my biggest issues with it. And we talked about that earlier on in the show. But yeah, I think that's a great observation. I've shared it. Dan the Cardman said the bigger reason is for the guarantee provision, which they don't extend to the person they charged for it. Again, that's right. You as a submitter are protecting future owners of the card, not yourself. But the fact that there may be future owners of your card implies that you are going to make money on that sale. Dan the Cardman says they charge customers a fortune to cover insurance that is only applicable for the 5 days they have it in hand before posting. I think he's talking about the actual loss of card in transit insurance there. Bob Boozle says, is Nat scared of a Jeremy Lee interview? He was on episode number 100 of Sports Cards Live. I don't think Nat's afraid of anybody going on any show. Nat can handle himself. Mookie Chilson says the most successful grader in the business is named Greg Morris. The guy gets 25% commission to sell raw cards. No slabbing required. Neo said PSA's justification is people are willing to pay it, and PSA is a for-profit company. Absolutely. Hobby Champs said, I actually do want consistent grading. I don't want to look at a 10 and know that it's not a 10 by looking at it. Same here. Mike Bagley said, I bought my first MBA graded card this week. What is everyone's opinion on them? I usually prefer SGC and, of course, have a lot of PSA. I love the of course. And of course, because, everyone knows everyone has a lot of PSA. MBA is a brand new grading company, but a longtime grader. Mike Baker was one of the first, if not the first grader at PSA in the 90s and has been giving eye appeal opinions in the form of stickers on slabs for several years now, and is launching his own grading company. I hear he'll be at the Expo in Toronto. He's been on this show. He actually announced he was going into the grading. He was launching a grading company. He announced that here on Sports Cards Live earlier this year. Anony said, wait till PSA announces that your grades are only valid for 20 years. This one caught my eye earlier. Listen, I don't hate that idea. I don't love it because your cards go down in value as you get closer and closer to that. And that's just the reality as current reality, because nothing is forever. But interesting thought. I guess I don't love it. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. But and I think a lot of it is that slabs are not a perfect. They are not a time capsule. They're not a time. Your card can change in that slab. They are not perfectly sealed from external weather conditions, whether it's freezing or humidity or moving around and being damaged within the slab. So I don't know. Any thoughts on this, Chris?
Yeah, I do. Let's take it into the hypothetical realm as a thought experiment just for a second, and let's take BGS, PSA, CGC, TAG, SGC. Let's take them out of it for a second. Let's say that a hypothetical new grading company entered the fore, and they told you from the beginning, straight up, that we will guarantee the grade of the card, because the commenter here is saying valid, but I'm going to shift it to guarantee. We will guarantee it with some form of a fairly robust guarantee, but it's only valid for 20 years. Gut reaction, you can pontificate it on this if you'd like, but gut reaction, Would you want to own cards that are in that slab?
In an expiring slab.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's when I caught myself. These are just going to go down in value. It's like you have to amortize the value, not the value of the card, but the incremental value of the grade that the grade brings the card. So maybe that's raw. However, it will be higher than that because there will be a whole new almost lexicon sort of thing around this expired 3 years ago. It's still in the slab, and look at it for yourself. It still looks pretty good. Yes, it's expired, but it should regrade the same. And PSA's grading standards seem to have been consistent for the last, however long, if that's the case. And I have to think over time, all they can do once they kind of play out this epic growth they're going through and expansion into other grading operations in other countries and continents across the globe, and they are able to maybe become more consistent across all slabs, then maybe that would be more valid. But we're kind of just talking about pure hypotheticals here anyway. Yeah, but it's a good. Yeah, thank you, Chris. Any follow-up?
Well, just I'm going to make a small defense of the guarantee from just one perspective that I experience as a collector, and that I must issue the disclaimer that I work for Card Ladder. Card Ladder is owned by the collector's parent company. That parent company also owns PSA, so there's great risk of bias here by me chiming in, and that should be taken into consideration when you consider my remarks here when I'm going to say something positive about the policy, given that I do think there's great merit in a lot of the points and the criticisms and the reviews that have been offered of how the program exists in its current state. But I'll tell you this, I do buy and sell, mostly just buy cards from the 90s that occasionally have issues with either counterfeits or serial numbers that could be added, stamped onto the card in an aftermarket sense. And I do actually value quite a bit that those cards are theoretically, hypothetically, and per the terms and conditions on PSA's website, covered by a guarantee policy. Now, it is restricted to the specific case where I'm not the initial submitter, and that's a really important fact that's been made. So when I'm buying one of these cards on the secondary market, and I'm not the initial submitter, and the card falls underneath both my lifetime ability to make a claim, and I've never made a claim, and it falls underneath the individual limit, the ceiling that exists on the value of a card, that I do value that it's in a slab of a company that guarantees its value. I do value that on the authenticity level, particularly. The guarantee applies to the technical condition too, but I'm most focused on the authenticity guarantee. And that's what this comment triggered the thought in my mind of, like, what if PSA took this away? I wouldn't like it if there wasn't a company even providing the minimal service that we've identified that the guarantee provides. I do value it. I do consider it when I'm buying 90s cards in particular.
And listen, I also benefited from, I have benefited from the guarantee. So I would have been out, I don't know, I think I bought the card back in 2017-18 for probably like $1,100 and found out it was fake. It was a counterfeit card in a PSA 9 slab, and started a negotiation with PSA and got $6,000 from them for that card. I thought it was worth $8,000, but I got $6,000. They offered me $3,000 at first. I got them up to $6,000, and I just had to stop there. So without the guarantee, I would have lost not only my $1,100, but the $8,000 that I thought the card was worth when I trusted that slab. So, but it's funny because their cards in their slabs, part of the value should be because they get it right, not because they get it wrong. So I think the guarantee is helpful, and it really is just an admission of imperfection, and these are opinions, and they're not going to be consistent, and so it's the world we live in. Yeah. Okay. Bob Boozle, collect alert, Dylan walks off Jeremy Lee interview. Collect alert, Dylan returns to interview. Daniel Forrest says, and who's to say they won't change the grading parameters again? Absolutely nobody is to say that. Mark says it has to get fully automated at some point if there's ever going to be any true consistency. I can't disagree with that. David Marone says PSA blew their regrading standards. 1 to 6 doesn't matter. 7 to 10, good to elevate. Utilize 9.5 more. Beckett has the best standards. Thank you, David. Situational Adventure says someone needs to launch SAS, simply authentic slabs. Only one grade, authentic or not, with a note about trimming, creases, etc. That'd be interesting. I mean, PSA offers that, but either authenticating or not. But then again, who's going to launch that and get it right every time? I mean, identifying counterfeits is not easy. It would have to be, I think it would have to be a very experienced hobbyist or someone who's been grading for 20 or 30 years and has seen a lot of fakes come through and has identified counterfeits before. Orlando says PSA equals please submit again. James says irony, 100 plus people complaining about PSA with stacks of PSA graded cards. Absolutely guilty. I am so guilty of that, but I'm not necessarily complaining about, well, maybe complaining a bit about PSA, but I found a way that alleviates me from the irony here in that I buy low grade cards, at least now that I've, go ahead, Chris.
Great comment, great points by you too, Jeremy. But something that I've learned operating a business in this space for half a decade is that it is a privilege to be criticized by this space, to matter enough that people air their concerns. And for people, this is a hobby. This is not people's family life. This isn't their social circle. I mean, in some cases it is, but it isn't their primary family or occupation or job. So a lot of times, man, people are just venting. They're not thinking about, how does this impact the business operators? Because for them, this is a hobby. So they are just having raw takes that they are shooting out into the universe. And that actually is very helpful if operators in the space can get past that. They can sting and they can be really sharp and they can sometimes be very strong. But if we can look past that, the fact that that all this criticism is being targeted on PSA, what it does represent is exactly what James is pointing out here, that this is because everybody has PSA slabs, that they feel so strongly about it, that they're invested in the topic, and that they give a lot of opinions and takes on it. It is a privilege to be a hobby company receiving criticism. And if I could go out on a limb, I think many companies who understand that principle would be pleased to be able to be the topic and to be able to be the one receiving this feedback.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Josh. And taking himself off.
Sorry.
Okay,
right.
Go ahead.
No, Chris is right. I mean, we get a lot of feedback, and some of it is pretty biting, especially the day of an auction ending or right after it ends, or and you can listen to the feedback and get past the, you can't have hurt feelings. It's a business, not personal, like Chris said. But for people, it is personal because it's just for fun and it's venting. But sometimes when that venting and it's pure, emotion and not regulated to a certain number of, letters on a screen, it is very helpful to improving a business.
Right. This is a hobby. I've said it before. I hate when I say I've said it before, but I've said it before. This is a hobby that exists in an industry. And this isn't a hobby like crocheting or doing puzzles. You might have a hobby out there where you do puzzles with your family or your spouse or by yourself. There's nothing to get all passionate about there. This is a hobby that is driven by passion and nostalgia and finances in many, many cases, if not most. So it's not, we call it, why are we getting so worked up about pictures of men on cardboard? That's such an idiotic take. That's one of the most idiotic takes out there when people say that. You just don't understand the hobby then. This is not a hobby in the traditional sense. It's so much. That's why it owns the word the hobby, because it's not like any other hobby. John Mangini says PSA cards, almost in quotes, PSA never issued cards. This is another hot take I have. Exactly true. They are PSA graded card. There's no such thing as a PSA card unless you're going to the National and they're taking your picture and putting you on their own card. They are PSA graded cards. When I hear someone say, I collect PSA 10s, or I want this set all in PSA 9s, and I know a lot of people do that, and some of you probably do that too. Listen, I I live by collect what you like, collect how you like approach. I just don't have to agree or even respect it, but I respect that you do it, but I don't have to respect the approach. If you collect PSA 10s or you collect 86 Fleer in all PSA 9s, I just don't respect that personally, but I love that you do it. I love that you do that for yourself and it makes you happy and you're involved in the hobby and that's what gets you off. I just don't respect it as an approach personally. Jahan says, what happens when you pull a monster card and can't afford the upcharge? Well, what happens, Jahan, is that you are forced to sell it to pay for the upcharge. You almost have to sell it. You have to borrow money from somebody, sell the card so you can pay them back. This is a legitimate concern with upcharges. I think this might be one of the most legitimate concerns with upcharges. He goes on to say, you have to sell the card you never dreamed you'd pull. Yeah, that's exactly the situation you're in. And I don't like that about it at all. Any thoughts, Chris or Josh, on that?
You can reject it and they can give the card back to you, but then that, that defeats the whole enterprise of grading in the first place and the service being provided. So this is the point that Dan was making. This is the point that you were making. Is there a way to smooth this cost out, to distribute it more evenly across the field of all submissions to address this particular situation? I think it's a great concern. It's a real topic that's worth raising.
Here's a funny one from Neo. He says, when you say SGC, you have to call them by the proper name, Boutique Card Grader SGC. That's a good one. Hockey Card Exchange says 100% SGC and Beckett are definitely a grade behind. Wasn't always the case, but and likely very much so is now. Jahan says, which businessman in the chat thinks buying a company for $750 million that is worth $5 billion now is a mistake or stupid? Big companies have all types of issues and people will, and that's the end of the comment. I think I hear what you're saying. I think he's right. Orlando says, I sent a pre-war card from SGC to PSA. Submitter said, crack it. Went from SGC 4 to PSA 5. There's no exact logic or formula for everything in here, but there are generalizations or at least trends, I guess. Not Funny says, how is grading such a mystery? Crazy how little information the hobby has. Feels like at least a couple disgruntled employees would be talking. One did recently, but I think he got hit with a letter from PSA, I believe, saying don't talk about what you learned, confidentiality documents that you signed. Don't violate those. Rain in the Trees says, would not be talking if they had acquired some sort of cheat code to earn from the other side of the table. I'm not sure what that's about. Hobby Champ said, you better hope Hoge doesn't start collecting post-career Mickey Mantle printing plates. Orlando said, Jeremy needs to do a video sharing his collection. I know I do, Orlando. Jacob Dahl says, hey, Jeremy, are those retro fractors from 0102 era? Yes, they are, Jacob. That's exactly when they are from. Orlando said, would love to see Jeremy's displays behind him one day. Yes, sir. Mojo Sports, what's up, Jay? Says, Mikey is the man. Can't wait for the Toronto show. Hobby Champ says, open hand waves, please, Joe. You don't want to get canceled when we're raising our hands to speak. Brad's Vintage Collection said, hello, all. Just got home. Glad you are still on. Good to see you, Brad. I believe I saw you today. Vintage Sports Pursuit. Mikey, any more signing guest announcements coming up? Mikey's long gone. Orlando said, does Mikey also run Strongsville? Yes, he does. Hobby Champ said, one of my favorite things I've seen is when Double D Vintage was laying on his floor looking at all his baseball cards on the wall. Yeah, beautiful image. Darren says, depressed Brewer fan checking in. SCL's picking me up. Thanks, Jeremy and guests. This is better than watching Ohtani rip our hearts out. Sorry for your loss, buddy. Bob Boozle says, sorry, kids can't go trick-or-treating this year. Daddy has to pay up charges. Dan's Vintage says, Mikey was a hobby hero at Strongsville this year, showing up strong at Vintage Trade Night. Very good to hear. Bob Boozle said, did Dylan break the SCL 2.0 record for most guest airtime? Maybe up there. Here's the... This is a good one, Josh. Christina's PC says, Jeremy, where's Josh's ring light? Yeah. Josh, don't worry, Josh. We'll get you a ring light. Maybe I'll order one on Amazon and give it to you at the expo next week.
Give it to him at the show. There you go.
Yeah. Dan the Cardman said, in the middle of mowing the lawn, had to stop and say thanks. Wife quickly put me back to work. Definition of S and said, you said you had 61 topics from chat that you wanted to cover. Thank you for the reminder. Dan's Vintage. Made it home in time to see the end of the show. Good to see you, Dan. Hope you had a great night with your daughter. Celebrations and congratulations again. Peter Mike 9. When it comes to grading, Do you think companies like Tag and Arena Club are being tampered down because companies who are PSA or in PSA's pocket won't put new grading comps on their comp site? Well, okay. Yeah, well, let me just say one thing, Chris, which is that comp sites don't choose. I don't think comp sites determine what comps go on their page by grading company. I think it's auction houses. Auction houses don't accept all grading companies. Some do. I was looking at Pristine Auctions the other day. They accept almost any grading company. I know Ken Golden years ago came on here and said that he wouldn't bring any new grading company onto his auction site until they were 5 years in the industry, which I think was actually a pretty solid take, But then I think to myself, well, go visit the operation, Ken, or whoever else. Go see for yourself. Learn about these companies before you just say no. But I also respect that kind of pay your dues thing as well. Chris.
Yeah, I immediately thought about that comment that Ken made on this show too. And the issue was more prevalent then because, recall, there were a lot of grading companies popping up then. That was one of the gold rushes of that era, was the proliferation of grading companies. And Ken might have had a prescient take, in fact, because several of those grading companies that people were agitating for to have included are no longer in business. And that was, I think, his main concern, was that once, a company has reached, it's arbitrary, or at least somewhat arbitrary, but once a company has reached a certain threshold, a 5-year threshold, maybe he felt it increased the likelihood that they'd be around for the long haul. And if they would be around for the long haul, then he's protecting the customers who are buying things in his auctions by making sure that they're buying from companies that are well established, have a long run, and will continue to operate into the future. And then, but to the point of comp sites tracking, the example, like what we have at Card Ladder, is a sales history feature. And we bring in all sales. Tag is a highly respected grading company. But even grading companies are more obscure, they're less known. Those sales filter in too. And they are searchable and displayable within the sales history window. And I think that's the policy that I couldn't think of a database tracking prices that excludes the grades of any particular grading company. Now, if the point is being made that the cards that comprise Card Ladder's ladder, which are the ones that we use to build indexes through, those right now, we have those for CGC, for BGS, for PSA, and for SGC. I don't know that we have any tags yet, but we certainly wouldn't be opposed to it, especially like Jeremy, you pointed out earlier, in the Pokemon space, they have become a very serious player in particular. So there's no objection here from tracking them and using those to build our indexes as well.
I have to think you do have tag comps on Card Ladder. I mean, there's.
Oh, we have tons. You could go to. Card Ladder sales history.
You meant in the ladder. The ladder.
In the ladder.
Yeah.
In the 80,000 or so cards that compose the ladder, I'm not sure if we have tag. Okay. But yeah, if you go to sales history, you'll find tens, maybe hundreds of thousands of tag sales.
Yeah. Next comment from Hobby Champ says, yeah, the extortion aspect of upcharges kind of throws a monkey wrench into the capitalism argument. So I disagree with this, Hobby Champs. I don't see it as extortion. As Chris said, and other people have said, and people know, you can reject the upcharge and receive your card back and not pay for it. So is that really extortion when you they're not forcing you to pay the money? They're forcing you to pay the money to get the card in their slab, but you can get back what you submitted. So I don't think that's extortion. One lawyer, one law educated person on the screen. Josh, what do you think? From a legal perspective, and Dan's Vintage, chime in too in the chat if you're still there, is the upcharge extortion, like legally speaking, or are we just using this word very frivolously here?
I mean, I think that's a colloquial use of that word, but it's not extortion by any means. It's, again, you're voluntarily giving these people your cards and voluntarily agreeing to pay more if the card is arbitrarily decided as a higher grade than what you said it was.
Thank you. Brad's Vintage Collection said, PSA can do what they want until a company employs technology to better detect alterations, and hobbyists believe they need that opinion to protect themselves on large purchases. I think eventually the hobby will get there, whether it's Tag or Arena Club or PSA employing like computer consistent machine, as MK on Instagram says, the robots are coming, right? Unless a company does that, I think we are heading in that direction eventually. It could be, I thought it was going to happen faster, but it could be 20 years out. Who knows? Bob Boozle here says, stay up, Casey. Jeremy's going to let me on the show to display my Labubu collection. Yeah, we're gonna have a Labubu month here on Sports Cards Live, guys. Victor says, opt-out option for this service makes sense. Not sure how that would work, but it would tie into the cert number somehow. Opt out of the guarantee. Well, then you would have to disclose that whenever you sold the card, that this card is now not eligible because the original submitter did not pay for it. I don't see that work. I like the idea, Victor. I don't see it working. I just think now you've got two classes of PSA slabs. And I mean, we already have several classes from various eras of grading, but I don't see it working, but I like the thought. I do. Bob Boozle said, if Jeremy Lee finds a cure for cancer, he would say, we're going to cure many people. If PSA did it, they would say, we're going to be rich. I appreciate that, Bob Boozle. Thank you. Vintage Card Collector says, PSA didn't buy CGC, BGS, Tag, and others. Just because other competitors may not be strong enough doesn't mean they aren't competing. Plus, SGC still exists. So what Vintage is responding to here was a comment earlier that said that PSA is a monopoly. They are the market. They are the boss. But in effect, there are alternatives, and there's several. I learned of 2 new grading companies 2 weeks ago in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, guys. That's just north of North Dakota. 2 new grading companies, Fierce Grading, and here's the card, and TG. It looks a lot like Tag, but it's and TGA Grading. Just learned of these 2 companies. So there are alternatives. We just can't see them. Dan's Vintage Baseball says, insurance deductibles are not a surprise, but that doesn't mean they aren't predatory. I love this comment from Dan, because earlier on, if you guys remember, someone mentioned that the PSA upcharges are predatory. And then we said, well, but we know about them. We know about them. So you are deciding whether or not you want to accept them when you agree to their terms. And what Dan is saying is that, well, just because you know about them and they're not a surprise doesn't mean they aren't predatory. So I think what he's saying is they aren't like extremely applied. Like they're not too high. I think that's what he's saying. He's saying they are too high, and that the rate of the fee schedule, I don't know what I'm saying. The amount of the fee, he's saying, can still be predatory, even though you know about it. And I appreciate that comment. Like that adds context to what I was thinking before. David Petrola says, it's not insurance premiums, and I wish people would stop with this talking point. It's like when people say cards aren't investments because they are not like stocks. They don't pay dividends. Doesn't mean they're not investments, guys. And what David is saying is that they're not insurance. An insurance product is different from a sports card. And I get that. I understand it. I shouldn't say I get it. I understand. What I'm saying is I think that makes sense. What David is saying here. It's not insurance premiums. And I wish people stop with this talking point. We could dive into that more, but let's just move on. Michael Rader said, these upcharges are a total conflict of interest. Give a higher grade for PSA to make more money. Come on, guys. Did it really deserve that higher grade? Well, if there is no population control, which Dylan doesn't think there is, then that lends more credence to this possibility that they are incentivized to give out higher grades to make more money on their fees to help pay for the mistakes made of their, pre-pandemic, pre-Nat Turner being the boss, and whatever has been happening since then, whatever mistakes have happened since. So, but a lot of people see it as a complete conflict of interest. I understand it. Dog Food Soup says, if I wear that outfit that I just described to the expo, he will buy me a donut. Chris, I'm going to go hungry for sure then. As I said, I wear swag constantly. And David Pesreba says, the cost to grade should be on the raw value of the card. Otherwise, it's just pure conflict of interest. I think that's okay. David, thank you. That clarifies your earlier comment. I think this is said really well. I don't know how to get around this comment. I don't know. Like, I'm trying to be fair. I'm not sticking up for PSA or defending PSA. I'm just trying to think logically to the extent I'm able to and understand the situation. And I can't poke a hole in this. Chris, is there a hole to poke in this? Can you poke? And I understand that you are,
Right.
under the collector's
I've given my
umbrella.
disclaimer. Yeah, I would give it.
Yeah,
Okay.
you gave it, but you're also very fair and pragmatic. So,
and I'm a collector, and honestly, I'm a collector before anything, and I always will be. So that's the hat that I automatically always have on, and there is no hole to poke in this. There isn't, and the conflict of interest is present here. There are many conflict of interests in this industry and in many other industries. The existence of a conflict of interest is something that should call attention to the need to be sensitive, to think very carefully and critically, to build in as many safeguards as we can. But the existence of a conflict of interest isn't a death sentence itself. There then is the secondary analysis, which is, does that conflict of interest actually lead to corrupt behavior or improper actions? And that's the other part of the analysis that comes in. Now, if somebody does say, I can't get past the conflict of interest, I don't really care how it plays out in practice, the conflict of interest itself is disqualifying, totally valid point of view, understandable point of view. So there really is no hole to poke here that I can see. But if we do want to get to the second part of the analysis, which is how does it actually play out? The other incentive, there is this incentive, but the other incentive is, and Jeremy, you've alluded to it many times, this is not any mind-blowing stuff here, but a grading company offering a guarantee also wants to preserve its reputation as being fair, as being accurate, as being reproducible. And the guarantee itself indicates that if a card is overgraded, then they will compensate for the difference between what the grade should be and the overgrading of it. So again, that's them reviewing their own work. So there are plenty of criticisms to be put in place there too. But the incentive also exists to protect reputation, to protect the idea that the cards are being graded accurately. So there are competing incentives here, but to answer your main question, there's no hole to poke in it. It's a totally fair observation.
Yeah. Appreciate that. I think so. Another comment from David, same guy. He says here, I don't have a problem with charging more for higher valued cards. It's when they charge more because they graded it higher. Like, that makes sense to me too. It doesn't make sense to vintage card collector says, you sure do, Dave. It's called higher property. I think this is in response. It's called higher property taxes on a greater home value. So yeah, but the builder charged, like, you paid for the card already. I don't know, vintage. I think you lose me there, but we can have further conversation. But back to David's comment, like, I don't have a problem with charging more for higher valued cards. It's when they charge more because they graded it higher. Yeah, that makes sense to me. But vintage, who I respect, I got to meet at the National, is making me wonder what I might be missing. Chris or Josh, do either of you have any insights into these comments? Can you see them off to the side too? So I can't put them both on the screen at once.
I don't like property taxes either. So if we could get rid of those, I think we'd be doing great.
Josh,
I'm with them. No, I think this is a reference to if someone did work on his house. Does it pay the contractor more money now? And this response was no, because you pay more property tax because the value of the house did go up, so you are paying more just to the assessor. That's what this is referring to. That's
okay. Dan said, Jeremy providing direct evidence of why we tune in every week. Thank you, Dan. Midlife Greg says we tune in because this is the blast. Thank you, Greg. Hobby Champs says it is predatory because you don't know what the grade will be. And the upcharge comes after the grade. You're signing up for your card to be graded, not for them to eat into your profit margin. That's another angle to look at this from. It's another angle, but I don't know that it sways me away from it being not predatory, because you know what you're signing up for. You should know what the maximum value of your card is if it hits that 10. The PSA 10, so there's a chance that you're going to get hit with that amount. They charge you based on the after grade because that's their service, though. That is their service. Now, I'm not trying to defend them, Hobby Champs. I'm just trying to find the position that makes the most sense to me, that I understand, and I'm still not convinced. But keep trying, because I'm appreciating your comments here. Okay, continuing on to some more. Although I think that's the end of my starred one. So now I'm freestyling the comments, guys, and we're about 30 minutes behind. Why don't we just pause on comments now? Pause on comments. Chris, do you have a topic you'd like to introduce in the last 6 minutes, unless we go into overtime?
Oh man, I did bring topics. None of them are going to be able to match the heat of this one. this is a good topic, and I'm going to get into some nerdy collecting stuff here. But what do you say, Jeremy? Do you want to? Do you want me to bring?
Let's bring one. Let's bring one.
Right.
We'll go a bit into overtime, guys. We're at the 2-hour, 54-minute mark of this show. We usually aim for 3 hours. In a few seconds, I am going to have to take a quick 90-second bathroom break. You know that's going to happen. Maybe I'll do that as Chris introduces the topic.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm happy to go into overtime for go another 15-20 minutes if you think we can cover it in that time.
I don't know. This might be really quick. This is something that's very just experiential, and I want to kick it to both you and Josh. I'll introduce it real quick, and then maybe Josh and I can riff as you take a break really quick here. But the question is this, all right? As a collector, we all go through droughts where we just don't pick anything up for a little while. Maybe it's because something we're looking for isn't coming up to auction. Maybe it's because we don't have the budget available for it at that time. Maybe we're consolidating into a different card, and that's where all of our attention is being focused. But I've gone through periods 3, 4, 6 months, maybe even longer, where I really didn't have a mail day, didn't have a new card I picked up, just didn't have anything new come in. And the question I'm kicking to each of you guys is, how do you deal with that? What's psychologically as knowing that this hobby is escapism for us? If we're not picking up cards and adding them to our collection, or at least not ones that were really, big cards that we're excited about, how do you deal with it? Do you raid the dollar box and just pick up some smaller stuff and build out a set, fill a binder? Do you just kind of dive into content and let that scratch the itch instead? Or that's my question, or something else completely different. What do you do when you're in a drought?
Start with you, Josh.
Good question, because I'm in the middle of a drought right now. I bought a card at the West Coast show, and it's probably my last card for the year. So in terms of like bigger cards, I'm broke. But so what I do is Chris said, like the dollar box. I find cards of other players I like to collect that are somewhat a little more affordable and won't break the bank and can kind of, like you said, scratch that itch. I got a cool card in the mail yesterday. I'm like, I haven't gotten something in the mail in a long time, and it's very cathartic, and it's very it's escapism. Exactly, it feels great. Listen to a lot of hobby content. Mostly, I love Chris's new. It's not new anymore, but his podcast and Brett's podcasts are great. The football pod is outstanding, and then of course Jeremy's. Like three or four days out of the week, I listen to Jeremy Lee. So, that also, and I look at other people's cards, and that's fun too. Go through Instagram, and you can scroll and see people picking up. It's awesome. It's really cool.
Yeah, fun question, Chris. And so I was in a bit of one, after I went through my Joe Jackson consolidation, I became a little, what's it called? Trigger shy. I became a little trigger shy. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I just had to give up all these cards for my collection, and I picked up the biggest card of my life by 7 times. And, maybe I just need to not buy some cards right now. I felt like I spent all my money sort of thing. So I backed off, but that was self-imposed, not because I couldn't find anything, because I needed to give myself a bit of a break and breathing room. And then through that consolidation process, as I was logging into the Fund Your Cards proprietary platform and seeing my debt come down as he was selling cards for me, some of which sold on 90s auctions. Thank you, Josh. I started to exhale more. Okay, my debt to Fund Your Cards started out like well into the 6 figures, and it came down and down and down. And that gave me even though those cards were already gone when it just took time to sell, I felt looser. I felt looser about things financially, I guess. And then, but the other consequence of the Joe Jackson card was that my standards went up. Not my technical grading standards. No, they went down. My standards went up in terms of finding undergraded cards. What I call sleepers, a card that is in a slab that maybe shouldn't have been graded higher technically. I don't care what the technical grade is. It's more about this card presents way nicer. So the scope of cards that were even going to be welcomed into my collection was reduced, and that was just an additional boundary that I put on my collection. So I found myself like, oh, what am I gonna do? And then the National came along. I went to the National and I went on a buying spree there. I felt liberated, went on a buying spree, bought some great cards, and came back with that same sort of feeling like, okay, I just spent all my money again. Now what am I gonna do? So what I've done, and I'm still sort of in that spot, is I'm still picking up cards, but I'm picking up lower end cards that I love. And I'm fortunate, Chris, in your scenario here, in that I collect a lot of different cards, a lot of sports and eras. So I can stop buying vintage baseball pre-war cards for $500 to $5,000 and start buying modern hockey cards or 90s MJs for in that like $5 to $400 range, and not feel like I'm blowing the bank or overspending. But I think I'm fortunate too, Chris, in that it's going to be hard. Like my droughts are mostly going to be self-imposed because there's always cards I want to buy. I like so many things. So it comes down to, self-imposed, because either I don't want to spend the money or my standards have changed or what I'm buying has changed. So last comment on this. Bought a collection about a month ago. I've talked about it before. All these binders. I've had them at 3 card shows now. It's so much fun selling cards to people out of these binders. But the best fun is when I go through these binders the first time, and I want to put out a video at some point. I don't know if I will, because I don't do this very often. But I want to put out a video called Getting High on My Own Supply, because that's what I've been doing lately, guys. The 72 binder collection I bought, I have now spent a lot of time going through them, and this is one of my Getting High on My Own Supply binders, and this is the other one. So these are 2 binders of cards that I bought in a collection, that I bought the collection just to have inventory at card shows for, but I ended up finding this many cards that I'm like, I'm keeping those in my personal collection. Those are going to go on my binder shelf, which currently has 3 binders only. I've now gone from 3 to 5 in my binder collection. So Chris, I mean, I got lucky to pick up this collection and see so many cards that I could love and add to my own collection. And that's given me a lot of joy in the last month or so. So there's my answer. Sorry, I know it was really long, guys.
Those are inspired answers. I wasn't sure if we would get through this topic in like 3 seconds or I mean, I love that. And there was some, I think Dan chimed in the comments that it's a good time to go back and enjoy what you've already got, which that's always a recipe to enjoy collecting. And there's something that I think about though, is that that's tangential to this topic, is how much of our time these days in this iteration of the hobby, in the social media era of the hobby, in the post-social media era in some sense, how much of our time is spent actually with our cards, looking at them, organizing them, cataloging them, or buying them or selling them or trading them, and how much of it is spent consuming hobby content or having digital conversations with fellow collectors online, or somehow engaging with posts or browsing sales histories or looking at things that are for sale. I'm not sure when it happened or if it's always been this way, but this harkens back to the 90s too. How much time did I spend leafing through the Beckett magazine versus how much time did I spend looking at my cards? But content is so underrated, I think. If we were to ever estimate the percentage of our time we spend with the content versus the percentage of the time we spend with or doing things with our cards. So this is also, content has filled, for me personally, and Josh brought this up, and Jeremy, you touched on it too. For me personally, droughts have been really filled for me with content, that I can lean into content, that I can reset. The best content, my best content consuming experience is when I'm listening to you, Jeremy. Maybe I'm listening to the Thursday night that you and Adam do for the premiere, or maybe I'm listening to your Sunday night with the weekly or a replay of this show or whatever. And when my brain sort of continues listening, it continues hearing what you and the guests are saying, but the other half of my brain starts thinking about my own collection. How does what they're saying impact what I think about, or how does it inspire me? I've been imbibing the eye appeal content like regularly for for 2025. I think that's when it really came on my radar, and I really started thinking about it critically, and I started consuming a lot of content from content creators who are putting it out. And all of a sudden, I can sort of see that it's planted a seed in my mind, not in the exact same way, although I think it is applicable to ultramodern and modern too in certain ways. But it started planting the seed more in my mind about, well, these guys are like saying that not all PSA 4s are the same. Does that apply to comps? Are all comps the same, or should we be applying this level of careful thought and scrutiny to evaluating data points too? And can one data point, to make the metaphorical, to make it the point metaphorically, can one data point be a little off center and the other one's better centered? Does that work, right? And so the best content is when new ideas are flowing, or ideas from other domains are being transferred into domains that I'm more familiar with. And that's the way I fill the gap when I feel a drought coming on for myself right now. Just like Josh, I am completely tapped out. And I think the content and going back to my own content and thinking and philosophizing about cards, that's going to be what fills the gap for me.
Great stuff, Chris. Great stuff. You hit a chord with me on a couple of those comments there. Yeah, and I appreciate the comments in the chat too. Seeing several of them there that tie into some of the stuff that you were saying, and you talked about back in the early days, like how much time were we spending flipping through Beckett versus looking at our cards. Like I call it playing with my cards. What am I doing? Whether I'm, sometimes you'll go through the process of reorganizing your image database, whether you're using an online resource like Card Ladder has a My Collection service, whether you store them on your own computer. I use Dropbox, whatever you might use. Scanning your cards is playing with your cards, looking at them, sorting them. Like you can sort them by sport, by chronologically, by player. You can make little flights up. There's so many different ways to enjoy them. So yeah, and then of course, if you're creating content or working on side projects, there's lots of things that you can do to stay busy and enjoy this hobby. Christina makes a great comment here. This is about half an hour ago, but when talking about other hobbies not being so passionate, she says, I don't know, Jeremy, you ever open a puzzle, then get to the final piece and find it wasn't in the box? Yeah, Christina, you make a very compelling point there. You really do. Josh, what do you think?
That's my closing argument line every case. But the puzzle, I'll tell you about it later. But it's my puzzle in the box missing a piece. It's my line I use all the time. Very happy
in court.
Very happy to see that applicable here. Thank you.
So, Chris, let's go to some comments based on this last final topic of the evening, and we will start with Brett Miles. Says, I've bought fewer cards in 2025 than ever. My hobby enjoyment has come from listening, watching others, enjoying, celebrating their collections. Hobby fun can come from other people's wins. Awesome, Brett. Thank you. Dan's Vintage said, the way to scratch the new card itch is to go back and enjoy the cards you already have. Yeah, that kind of, to me, kind of goes without saying, but I will say one thing about enjoying the cards you already have. And I've been, collecting my whole life. I've always followed this sort of mantra or just, approach, which has been, I don't want to over enjoy my cards because I don't want to get bored of them. I want to savor them. I don't want to look at every card I own every day. I want to cycle through so that when I see a card, it kind of surprises me again. Oh, I forgot how awesome you were, So yes, scratch the itch when you have to, but I think there's that line of over enjoying. You're nodding, Chris. That resonates with you?
Oh, God, that's just an A+ comment. That's so important. And I was overlooking it when I was sort of making my remarks that I can absolutely get bored of a card if I'm forcing it, so like really when I go back to the PC box to look at and enjoy cards, I have to feel the urge first. And if I don't feel directly like, oh man, I haven't looked at these cards in a while, I'd love to go do a browse of the collection, then I don't. I don't. I'm very conscientious of not forcing it.
Yeah. Savoring them. Josh, do you approach it that way or do you look at your cards every day?
Not every day, but I don't get tired of them. But I mean, I have them like in my, in my house. And if I ever wanted to, I just go take them out, look at them, put them back. But yeah, no, I get it though. I get the point that keep forcing it. You're like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like when you hear us, how every summer there's like the new summer anthem, like the new party song you hear walking through the hotels in Vegas and stuff, and it's so good. I love it. I mean, I love that Gnarls Barkley song, the party song that came out like 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Man, I remember that. I love that. Now I can't listen to it anymore. I've heard it too many times. I'm fearful that can happen with some cards, not all, but some cards in my collection. I fear that could happen. So I just want to continue to really just savor the cards. Producer Louie from the Hockey Cards Gong Show holding out on me with cards in those binders. Yo, Jaylee, Louie, buddy, you gotta fly up to Calgary and come and look at these binders because I'm telling you, I don't know how I'm gonna get them all to Toronto. Bob Boozle says Jeremy needs a Sunday morning show. Yeah, I don't think I can do it, Bob Boozle. I have enough shows, and that's
Jeremy. Technically, we are in a Sunday morning show right now.
A Sunday morning show. You're right. But later this morning, I have to take my kids to swimming lessons. That is a Sunday morning thing, or swimming lessons in this household. Dan's Vintage says the preparation and making of the content is also a great chance to enjoy your collection. And that's where I have been deficient, apparently, because people have asked, in sharing my collection with the Sports Cards Live community. I have not done a good job of that. And I just don't know the right way to do it. I just don't know. So maybe I need to go for some coaching on that. Situational Adventure says, had to slow down the absorption of content. There's a lot of great content, just too much. Have to enjoy life as well. Yeah, I hear you, Situational. I feel the same way. I have not been consuming nearly as much content as I was, like inception to date, up until about back in like June or so. I really slowed down, but I've been, as you guys have, as I've teased to the audience, I've been working on 2 like major projects behind the scenes that very few people know about. And one of them is about to come to fruition. The other one's still a couple months out, I think, but I've been very busy where I haven't, like I told Dylan before he came on here the other day, I go, dude, like I'm going to watch one of your videos, but I haven't watched your videos in like 3 months. I told Greg, I think I called in, or talking. Oh, this was in a private. This was weird in a DM. I said to Midlife Greg, I go, I owe you a phone call because I just feel like when I was watching more of Greg's content, I was texting me, oh, this was great. I love this, love that. I just haven't been consuming as much content as I have, and I hope to get back to it, but there is so much of it. Yeah, absolutely. Brett Miles says, leaning in to the Hoj comment on how content relates to my collecting enjoyment. Yes, you are, Brett, and Hoj does a great job of that. Okay, guys, what I'm going to do now is, I know that was just comments, but I want to just kind of run through the end of them, pick on the ones that are that are speaking to me, and then we'll just sort of start our final comments, I guess. Midlife Greg said data points tied to centering would be next level. Bob Boozle, I'm an adult that plays with my cards and gets high on my own supply. MK Sports Cards from Instagram says Josh goes after those dollar box football cards. What is up, Chad Shipper? Good to see you, buddy. Brad's Vintage said data points on subgrades established by the database would be the ultimate. The hobby won't give them to us. Maybe Card Ladder can. Brett Miles said replacing old, janky, yellow top loaders with new ones, playing with my collection. Absolutely. Absolutely. Michael Rader, how many cards are enough? Is there a stopping point? If you have tens of thousands of cards, do you still need more? I understand wanting new things, but is it necessary? Michael, I love the comment. I think about that all the time. How many cards do I need? It was that line of thinking that made my Joe Jackson consolidation so much easier for me to stomach when I went through it. And by the way, Chris and Josh, put your hand up if you want to jump in throughout any of these comments. Producer Louie, Christina, kind of how I feel knowing Jeremy took cards out of the binders for himself. The puzzle piece missing. Bob Boozle says, having had a head injury, I forget what cards I have, so I surprise myself every day. I love that. That's great. Len wants to know what hockey sets do you think are undervalued? I'm sorry, Len. My head space is just not there to go through that right now, but all hockey cards are undervalued compared to other sports right now, I would think. Hoops Hobby Hangout. Great analogy with the overplayed song. Thank you, Hoops Hobby. Appreciate that. KCH says, so I should get ready to submit some cards that I don't love anymore in order to sell. Maybe you got to make that decision for yourself. Mookie says, I'm looking for a Gnarls Barkley rookie refractor. Upcharging's crazy. Good stuff. Good stuff. Dan says, Jeremy, you shared your collection on Tony's show, and it was, well, that was just a, thank you, Dan. That was just a slice of it. I think I just shared some vintage stuff. That was a slice of it. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed. Bob Boozle, collect alert. Jeremy Lee teases new show. It's not a show, Bob Boozle. It's not a show. Hobby Champ says people are sick of hobby content. It's a perfect time for me to begin my hobby channel. Go for it, Hobby Champs. Would love to see who you are, by the way. You've been commenting here for years. Would love to see who it is. Casey H says SCL is drought proof. Thank you, Casey. Len says Jeremy should start a rip and ship. Okay. Okay. I now really have to pee. Chris and Josh, we are now 3 hours, 15 minutes in. We're going to wrap up, but anything you'd like to say before we do? I just ripped through a bunch of comments. Anything stick out? No? Josh, you good?
Yeah, I'm excited to see you in a couple of weeks. It'll be fun.
Same here.
Can't wait.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can't wait, buddy. Can't wait to see you. As always, Chris, I know we kind of got close to you thinking about last week we got close to you thinking about coming to the expo. I'm guessing since I haven't heard from you that's been kiboshed for now.
Yeah, it's for now kiboshed. Yeah, but Jeremy, I do look forward to going to my first, and I will definitely be availing myself of my connection to you to have a great time at this show. Maybe even pull up a chair at that dealer booth. I don't know if that extra chair is there.
Oh, dude, you come to Expo. My booth is your home base. Absolutely, hang out.
I appreciate it
as much. You, Josh, you guys are. Yeah. It just goes without saying. You hang your hat there, hang out, all that. Well, thank you for joining. This was a fun, action-packed episode. Thank you, Michael Rader. Appreciate that. Thank you, Hobby Champs. Boo Boo Goo Boo. Thank you to you too. Appreciate all the guys in the chat. Joe Poirot from earlier tonight. Dylan Davis, Double D Vintage. Check out his YouTube channel. Great stuff. Want to thank Mikey Singer for coming on as well. Chris Hoge, Josh Adams. The guys that I get to hang out with at the end of my Saturday nights. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. Thank you for coming on. David, thank you so much for being here. It says make sure you all smash that like. Yeah, if you enjoyed the show tonight, guys, hit the like button. If you did not enjoy the show tonight, hit that like button, everybody. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it. Producer Louis, see you soon. Thank you, Boo Boo. Brad's Vintage, thanks for taking the time to hang with us tonight. Always appreciate it. Thank you, Brad, for joining us here tonight. Thank you, Brett Miles. Appreciate you. Guys, we're going to wrap this up look at these guys getting ready, here on October the 18th, 2025. Oh, hold on. Anything else? Oh, I want to remind everybody, too. Sorry. Rabbit Hole Auctions. Their inaugural auction ends tomorrow, guys. Check out Rabbit Hole Auction. Their auction ends tomorrow. I will be back with Adam on Thursday for the Fanatics Collect Premier Auction Ending Watch Party. Always a lot of fun. Join us here for that. And we'll be back next Saturday for Sports Cards Live. Thank you so much. Thank you to the firm. Thank you to Christina. Thank you to Bob Boozle. And you got me. Thank you, Christina. And
you
with that,
faked her. Yeah, you.
What's that?
You pump faked her. She wanted to try and time the over, but you pump faked, and then you said, "Wait a minute, one more thing."
Yeah, I know. Sorry, Christy. Oh, I got you there. I'm sorry, Christina. I'm sorry. All right, guys. With that, this episode of Sports Cards Live is now over. And good night, everybody. We'll see you back here soon. Have a great rest of your weekend.